Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Everyone's class change. King of Shadows. One person is a natural disaster. Chapter 71. Now, Bai Yi slowly stepped into it and disappeared the moment he came into contact with the blue vortex. There is no reminder to enter the copy. There is no movement in the professional system in the body. That's all. He suddenly entered the dungeon without even a moment's reaction time. In the blink of an eye. The world around us has been turned upside down. One glance, just knowing that he had entered the dungeon, Bai Yi looked at the scenery in front of him and couldn't help but feel a little ordinary. Somewhat like the atmosphere between villages and towns, surrounded by surroundings. Bai Yi is in a forest. The trees are not very high, and the tallest ones are probably less than 4 or 5 meters. Look up. It was now approaching dusk, and the light was somewhat dim. The glimpse of sunset adds a bit of intoxication to the unremarkable surrounding scenery. Come out. Bai Yi waved his hand, and the shadow under him changed instantly. Natal shadow breaks away from its body and materializes. Immediately afterwards, some shadows appear directly from it, but not many in number. It is still unclear what the situation is, and it is not possible to use all the shadow men. Now Shadow's subordinates are basically General Ikuhara. Natal Shadow, Ninja, Black Barton, a few scattered shadow elements, shadow mutated gnolls, heavy on essence but not much. If all were summoned, a team of several hundred would be too exaggerated. Bai Yi did not plan to do this before he had figured out the details of this dungeon. You guys, go search the area. Bai Yi gave the command. Immediately, those shadow elemental and shadow mutated jackals began to take action. They scattered in all directions and fell into pieces. These shadow men are all moving forward from all directions, and only the most critical shadow men ensure Bai Yi's safety. But it's not too important. After all, several of Bai Yi's heaven-defying skills are here. Just a shadow swap is enough for him to leave this area in an instant, or even leave the entire dungeon directly if necessary. But for the time being, Bai Yi really doesn't plan to leave this copy directly. I still know a little bit about this. It would be embarrassing if I exchanged places with the shadow men outside the dungeon and bumped into Commissioner Knight who had not left yet. Committee Member Knight, you're out. Bai Yi, there is no other, only shadow exchange. Thinking about that scene, Bai Yi felt that there was an apartment with 3 bedrooms, 1 living room and 1 bathroom under his feet. Don't ask, it was because his toes were awkwardly pressed out. Nowadays, Bai Yi strolls through this copy. This copy, as it stands now, looks like nothing is out of the ordinary. It is no longer normal. Not like other copies at all. Even in the first dungeon, Steel Jungle, that Bai Yi entered, there was still a thick metal floor hidden under the dirt floor. Not to mention the next few copies, either the stone itself is a monster, or the jackals are swarming one by one. But anyway, on the surface, these copies seem to be quite normal. See here, Bai Yi could feel time passing by and the night in the sky getting darker. It seems that night is about to enter. And after such a long time, no news came back from the shadow men sent out. It's not that contact has been completely lost. The connection between the shadow men and Bai Yi is an inseparable relationship. Unless there are special circumstances, they can all pass information to each other. But, nowadays, the dozens of shadow men sent out have not received any information about the monsters. You can't. This copy isn't weird at all, is it? After thinking about it, Bai Yi himself felt funny and shook his head. It shouldn't be. Even if this copy has lost the characteristic of not being able to exclude time, it still cannot be without monsters. People from the Hanxia Alliance have already calculated that they can get out as long as they kill the boss of this instance. And for this premise, there is definitely a boss. If there is no boss, how can we kill it? You can't create a boss and then kill it, right? Isn't that a joke? Time passes slowly. Even though it was getting close to night, no news came back from the shadow men sent out. This also explains, there is not a single monster at such a long distance in all directions. Weird, very strange. 9 out of 10 are weird. Bai Yi frowned, but didn't think of anything. Finally, there are only 2 conclusions that can be drawn. Either the monster in this copy has not been found yet, or the mechanism that triggers the appearance of the monster has not yet been reached. I have no choice but to use these 2 explanations, and there is no other way. Next, Bai Yi accepted this strange setting, built the camp directly, and began to prepare to take a rest here. Set up camp. The surrounding woods were directly cleared by Black Barton and other shadow men. Bonfires are also not difficult to set up. After all, Bai Yi had purchased some survival supplies such as lighters before. Also purchased at the same time were some food, water and other resources. The professional storage backpack is a very magical thing. No matter what you put in it, it will look the same when you take it out. If you put hot rice in it, it will never be cold when you take it out. That's all. Bai Yi took out some camping items here. This was the first time he used these items. When entering the dungeon before, it was synchronized with the time of Blue Star. If you entered in the morning, you would be out before the evening. But this time it was actually different. The time of this copy was slightly off. While eating his meal, Bai Yi looked up at the completely dark sky. The surrounding shadow men were watching like this. They didn't need to eat, that was naturally the case. Time speeds up quietly. Finally, the surrounding shadow men discovered the enemy. Looking through the eyes of a shadow mutated jackal, there are several monsters that have grown even more mutated. It's even weirder than this group of shadows. It was a monster that was as tall as a dwarf, its body seemed to be made of purple ooze, and its surface was covered with a gray-black dust shell. Bai Yi didn't see it with his own eyes, so he couldn't use detection. But judging from the fight between the shadow men in the distance, it seems that the strength of this group of monsters is not too strong. Just a fight. These somewhat grotesque monsters are at a disadvantage. The shadow mutation jackal unleashed various skills and directly knocked out several purple mud monsters. These monsters don't seem to have any idea of escaping. It's just a fight to the death. So it didn't take long for these monsters to be completely defeated. At this time, the prompt from the professional system came. Kill monster weak and declining, experience plus 8W 7760. Kill monster weak and declining, experience plus 8W 7760. Kill monsters weak and declining, experience plus. Drop to be picked up, core of decline X5. Are these alien monsters called decay? They are a bit novel. Bai Yi murmured. But these don't make Bai Yi care too much. Meeting new monsters was just like going through the normal process, there was nothing surprising. But these monsters are strangely shaped and can only appear at night, which is a bit special. Unlike other monsters, they can move freely no matter day or night. If this feature is taken into consideration, it will greatly affect Bai Yi's experience and litter from monsters. Think about it. Bai Yi ordered several shadow men to pick up the bonfire. This night, no more sleep. Since this monster can only appear at night, of course it must be hunted at night. Gaining experience here is not Bai Yi's original intention. Bai Yi certainly has not forgotten his core purpose. Kill the boss and get the key. This was the main task assigned by the committee members, and Bai Yi also listened to it. However, what concerns Bai Yi is what this key is. Think carefully. Before that, Commissioner Yi had mentioned some ultimate opening, and said that it was not difficult to guess it with his intelligence. He guessed a banana stick hammer. Is this something that normal people can directly relate to? Do you think this is a detective's elementary school student's reasoning about tomb robbing notes? God TM can be inferred from just 2 words. But the more he thought about it, the deeper Bai Yi fell into and the more he thought. He gave the order casually and rode on Black Barton. The torches held by the shadow men around him were enough to illuminate the surroundings. Some decaying corpses have also been picked up and are on their way. At this time, Bai Yi was still thinking about the ultimate that committee member Yi said. Since Commissioner Knight has said so, then I'm not sure I can really guess it. Harm, just pass the time. Bai Yi rode on the back of the shadow and joked to himself. Since it's called ultimate, it must be about limits. If those committee members care so much, it must be related to themselves, or even the entire Hanxia, no, the entire professional group. Is there something that can tie it all together? Bai Yi scratched his head and thought while instructing the shadow men to take action. Suddenly, Bai Yi looked at his dashboard. After all, I am also one of the professionals. Player, Bai Yi, level 36 176W 280W. Wait. Is it level? Is there an upper limit to the level of a professional? A sudden inspiration came to Bai Yi's mind, which made him suddenly realize. Although it was just a passing thought. But, the more I think about it, the more reasonable it becomes. Since there is a level setting, then this thing may have an upper limit. So, the opening of this ultimate is the key to breaking the level restrictions. Is the ultimate a copy? Or is it some kind of breakthrough authority or something? And the necessary prerequisite for unlocking the ultimate is getting the so-called key. After careful consideration, Bai Yi himself was a little surprised. Although it is just a casual guess, just for fun to kill time, but how come the more I think about it, the more reasonable it becomes? You can't really guess it for him, right? Is that so? Can this be considered just a figment of my own imagination? Bai Yi's mouth twitched. Although this was just a figment of his own imagination, he always felt as if he had really touched the so-called truth. At this time, Bai Yi once again thought of Commissioner Yi's words. With his intelligence, it was not difficult to guess. So, now he really got it right. Shaking his head, Bai Yi thought these things were too bizarre. Even if he really guessed it, it would be something he would have to face in the future, not something he, who is not even at level 40, needed to dwell on now. Shouldn't you at least have to wait until you reach full level to bear this kind of trouble? Thinking, the declining corpses have also been transported. The mutated body, which was already somewhat deformed, became even more unbearable after death. The body, originally wrapped in a gray and black shell, after its death, was like a jellyfish that had lost its vitality and was soft and rotten. And what flowed out from the wound was drop after drop of purple mud. The torch illuminated a large area. You can even clearly see traces of purple mud flowing behind the shadow mutant jackals. The picture is slightly anomaly. But Bai Yi doesn't care too much about these things. His top priority now is, of course, extracting this new monster from the shadow men. The process was clearly sorted out once and for all, and it was so familiar that it couldn't be more familiar. Professional skill, shadow extraction, activate. With the sound of stand up, the body held by the shadow mutant jackal moved. Because it is dark night, the shadow of his corpse blended slightly with the night. But due to the light from the torch, several different shadows were reflected from several angles. These shadows swayed, turning into black shadows at a certain moment and floating above the ground. It was like being pulled up from the ground in an instant, very abrupt. Next moment, the 6 shadows faded and were quietly born. Bai Yi's first priority was to check the data of these new subordinates. Monster. Shadow decline, weak. Level 41. HP. 92,300. Comprehensive attack power, 2,100. Status, special amplification buff, King's domain. Skill, none. Bai Yi was stunned. This data is low enough. And this skill actually shows none. Bai Yi has extracted so many shadow minions, but there are very few without skills. Even the first monster we faced, Iron-Eating Rat, had a skill that could eat metal. But this weak thing has not declined. After a while, Bai Yi finally accepted this fact. It can only be said that this monster lives up to its name. It is really weak. Not only does its statistics are very low, it doesn't even have any skills. With a wave of his hand, Bai Yi signaled the shadows to disperse and look for more monsters. No matter how weak it is, the King's Realm buff added after becoming Shadow's subordinate can transform it into a 1 versus 3 existence. Facing their seemingly common race, these shadow decline will not be gentle. The opposite of what can be expected is definitely an explosion. But for the time being, the main function of these shadows is to use their size advantage to quickly shuttle through the woods and explore the enemy's movements. As expected, with the identity of same race on the surface, it is much easier to find monsters. In just a moment, another group was discovered. Only these declines, it seems, are somewhat different. These declines are bulky and slow, completely different from those that are as tall and short as children. These monsters are obviously different. Just like among stone monsters, there are differences between blue core, white core and purple core. But, in Bai Yi's eyes, these differences are nothing more than an analogy of dying early and dying late. Just see. Bai Yi casually waved his hand, which was enough to crush these fading shadows, and the swarm was dispatched. Shadow after shadow emerged from the shadow. Although it is not all the shadow minions, it is still enough for use. Nearly 100 shadow elements and shadow naga emerged one after another. Considering their size, even small forests can still travel by themselves. Unlike Black Bolton, which is huge, if it encounters densely forested terrain, it has to be destroyed with one hand to facilitate progress. It's like a person walking in a field of unripe corn. Although he can walk, he is very irritable and has to break a few corn stalks from time to time to relieve stress. Those small shadow men were sent out and quickly killed the tall and bloated group of declines they had just discovered. A prompt appeared in front of Bai Yi's eyes. Kill monster, fat decline, experience plus 11W 5960. Kill monster, fat decline, experience plus 11W 5960. Kill the monster, fat decline, experience plus. Drop to be picked up, core of decline X11. These corpses and dropped objects were also delivered to Bai Yi. Transporting these resources back and forth does not require too many shadow men, only a few here and there. Not long after, these things were brought to Bai Yi's eyes. Those deformed bodies that were bulging and swollen during life seemed to have shrunk after death, just like water balloons filled with water. Looking at these decaying corpses, Bai Yi launched shadow extraction without any hesitation. Next moment, the shadows under the corpses instantly turned into substance and slowly separated from the plane. The only slight difference is that the decline of these shadows is obviously a little larger. It can be said that it is larger by more than 1 or 2 circles. The group of short declines were only less than 1 meter, while these declines were about 1.5 meters tall. Although it is still not very tall, it can be completely distinguished. Monster. Shadow decline, fat. Level 41. HP, 12W1049, 12W1049. Comprehensive attack power, 3100. Status, special amplification buff King's Domain. Skill, sea level collision. The data is slightly low again, but at least it has an additional sea level skill called collision. There are about 10 of this group of slightly taller ones. Bai Yi waved his hand and ordered him to continue looking for the monster in this instance. He had a hunch that as long as he continued to search, there would definitely be clues to the boss in this dungeon, and he might even find the boss directly. However, this is just a thought. If it was really that easy, wouldn't the hundreds of previous professionals from the Dragon Kingdom have already left? Looking at the litter left behind by these decaying corpses, Bai Yi sent ninjas to sort it out. Unlike the straightforward drops in the past, these items are buried in the middle of the decaying corpse, and when you take them out, your hands are often covered with purple mud. Small decay is dropped one by one, which is the core of decline. Among the larger ones, some had 2 bodies, some had 3. Bai Yi didn't know what these things were for, but he kept them anyway. Without him, he would feel uncomfortable if he didn't pick up the dropped objects. Just like money dropped on the ground, there is something wrong if you don't pick it up. This overnight, the number of casualties in the entire dungeon was hundreds. At the same time, Bai Yi also expanded shadow decline by hundreds, and collected a lot of experience and drops. After systematic statistics by professionals, Bai Yi had a clear total. There are as many as 79 weak shadow decline. As for fat shadow decline, there are 285 people, which is already quite a large scale. During this time, Shadow Naga and Shadow Elemental were injured a lot, but after taking turns on the field and entering the Kingdom of Shadows to recover, there were no casualties. That is to say, Bai Yi spends almost one night in a small shadow army for almost nothing. At this moment, it was still some time before dawn, and the entire sky became a little brighter. But it's just a little brighter, not much. It is just enough to allow ordinary people to open their eyes and see the distance. Bai Yi estimated that the sky in the dungeon at this time was almost like 4 o'clock in the morning in winter. Suddenly, several shadow-fading people sent messages. Bai Yi took the message and his eyes changed. They actually discovered a group of professionals who are being attacked from both sides. OSHA team. It is composed of 3 melee members, 1 human shield, 1 mage, 1 wet nurse, and 2 long-range members. The average career potential per capita is A+ or above. But even so, they were still slightly defeated. And their enemies are those groups that are declining. Here, A slightly raised hill is surrounded by simple wooden walls built with trees. There are also watchtowers on the north and south sides that can be easily operated by remote professionals. But even though it was such an easy to defend but difficult to attack site, the wooden wall in the east was completely destroyed, and a large gap looked so hollow. Such a huge vacancy reflected in front of the eyes of the OSHA team, causing their confidence to decrease exponentially. Just because the monsters that are constantly attacking from the gap in the east are declining. 1, 5, 10. This was just someone who had just rushed in from the gap. The entire hill was surrounded by decay. Just by casually scanning, it is not difficult to see that the decline of this earth siege is not only 1,000 but also 500. It's just the monster's head that is so tightly packed together that it makes people feel numb. Here, an authentic Mao Shang Mandarin came out. Gone its brood, no matter how hard I beat it, I can't finish it. There are more and more of these beasts. It was a man from the bear country. He was not tall, but he had erected a shield as high as a gate and stood firmly at the front. Are they all finished one by one? The female remote professional in the team cursed. We shouldn't have accepted this mission. Do you really think we are the ones blessed by heaven? Forget it, drink vodka before you die, to worship Allah. Allah, hail to Allah. These professionals from the bear country knew that they might not be able to survive, so they drank down the remaining spirits, hoping to numb themselves a little. But it was just under this last carnival. The professional in the distance suddenly rubbed his eyes, looked into the distance with a look of disbelief, and shouted in astonishment. What is that? Did I drink too much? And following her gaze, everyone in the team saw. Am I blinded? Bennett, is it possible that the wine you bought is fake? Shouted a rough man with vodka and a beard in close combat. Following his gaze, all the team members looked in disbelief. Only because, in the hill forest not far away, several tall figures actually rose up. They come in different sizes, but even the smallest one is as tall as a tree. Some are as tall as giants. Some of them look like they have been pieced together, and they can be called mutated works of art. Some have sharp edges and corners, as sharp as rocks. But they, without exception, they all have one characteristic, that is, they are all made of black shadow. The huge dark figures made these people suspect that they had drunk too much. As professionals in the bear country celebrate their final days, only one of the young men who worked as a nanny did not drink. He did not want to be drunk at the last moment of his life. Because of this, he was the only one who saw it most clearly. He waved his hand and pushed away some of the curly hair that obscured his eyes, looked in that direction with a shocked face, and said tremblingly, "Brothers, I'm serious, that does exist, you read that right. Oh my God. How could this happen?" Looking at the tall black figures in the distance, the hearts of these professionals were already as quiet and dim as extinguished charcoal fire. The decline of this endless group of monsters is not yet over. Now there are a few more black shadow monsters that seem to be invincible. But the reality is not what they thought. Just see. As the shadow giant stepped forward, the surrounding trees were crushed and fell. Since the upgrade of Baiyi's professional skill, Kingdom of Shadows, it has a super effect of increasing the strength of living in it. As one of the earlier members to join the Shadow Men, the Shadow Giants are not as powerful as the new members. It can even be said that they are basically useless except for their size. But as a Bo SS level Shadow subordinate, he received a lot of strength improvements during his time in Kingdom of Shadows. No, with one step, a large area of decay was crushed to death. The shadow purple core stone monsters around him opened the way, and a small team composed of huge black shadows quickly entered the scene. Immediately afterwards, Shadow Naga King and Black Barden quickly entered the battlefield and started killing like crazy. Shadows, ninjas, shadow mutated jackals and other more agile beings quickly rushed into the group of declining monsters surrounded by them, killing the declining ones around the empty cave entrance in no time. Thereafter, the large piece of decline is still attacking, like a completely mindless zombie that only knows how to attack. But even so, the decline of this large number also became disorganized after the rapid entry of the Shadow Army. The already scattered and declining team was directly killed and turned upside down. All of a sudden, the decline of death is countless, and every moment there is a decline into a punctured water ball. Watch this scene. This professional team, called the OSHA team, was completely confused. What's going on? The new monsters didn't attack them, but instead started to kill them and besiege them. Natasha Romanovsky is a member of this professional squad and also serves as captain. She is a melee professional, and her profession is blade dancer with S-level potential. I thought I would explain it here today, but I didn't expect it. This new group of monsters did not attack them, but seemed to be intentionally helping them. Ula, take advantage of the situation and eliminate it. Go and help, Natasha shouted, waving the curved blade in her hand in a circle, and rushed out of the camp they spent 2.5 months building. With Captain Natasha taking the lead, the rest of the team members also emboldened themselves. Among them, Vodka also has some credit. Just see. These professionals quickly joined the battlefield. Although they were not as crushing as the Shadow Army, they were able to clean up some of the decline in an orderly manner. Aha! Single quote. Boom! Single quote. Coupled with the team's long-range attacks, Natasha took turns attacking and quickly eliminated a fading one. At this moment, a dark humanoid figure came in front of him. If not Natal Shadow, who else could it be? Natasha instinctively picked up the curved blade and prepared for battle. But never thought about it. The dark figure waved his hand casually, and Natasha actually felt a bit disgusted. As if to say, it's the same as, don't steal labor experience, do what you need to do. Natasha was instantly shocked. He just had a look of disbelief on his face, frozen in place with nothing to say. She was disliked by the other party and was a disservice. See this scene. The remaining 7 team members looked at each other, and for a moment they didn't know whether to laugh or not. PFFT ha ha ha. Single quote. Ha 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 ha. Single quote. One of the team members was the first to laugh without holding back. With the first person taking the lead, the remaining few professionally trained team members eventually laughed out loud because it was so funny. Everyone is drinking fake wine, right? Why are you laughing? Natasha turned around angrily and ordered the team members. PFF'd ha ha ha. Single quote. Ha 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 ha. Single quote. But it was obvious that even though she was the captain, she could not suppress the emotions of the team members. At the same time, the more than 300 animals that besieged the 8-man team on the mountain were also beaten to pieces. At least 60% of them were completely killed. The remaining, either he is being killed or he is on the way to be killed. It was also at this time. The sun has completely risen, and a ray of sunshine that is not so dazzling shines on the earth. This is a normal thing. But when it shines on this group of monsters called decline, it has a completely different effect. See you soon. Whether it is the decline of obesity or the decline of shortness. Anyone who was directly illuminated by the sun seemed to be killed. They were like a water ball that had leaked. They collapsed directly on the spot and could not get up again. All of a sudden, each of these declines that were not killed died as completely as self-immolation. Anyone who is exposed to the light will fall into a state of death. Although the sun that just rose was not dazzling. But after shining on these fading bodies, it was like a super conventional weapon that killed them instantly, killing each one. And this sunshine is still spreading in large areas. So that leads to, it didn't take long for the remaining groups on the hill to decline and completely die. See this scene. The OSHA team was not too surprised, as if they had seen it countless times. But after these scenes were seen by the Shadow Men, they passed the information to Bai Yi in the distance, which aroused a lot of ideas in Bai Yi. Far away, there are several Shadow Men guarding Bai Yi, receiving the information passed back. After learning that when the sun came up, all those who declined were dead and injured, I couldn't help but think more about it. These monsters can't see the light of day. Isn't it appropriate to die in public view? Bai Yi clicked his tongue in surprise. This is the first time he has encountered a monster with such obvious weaknesses. As long as he sees the sun, he will die immediately. Have to say, this weakness can be said to be slightly stronger than fatal. But, fortunately, the new batch of shadow declines recruited by Bai Yi do not have this weakness at all. Anyone whose shadow is extracted becomes the shadow's subordinate. The advantages of the ontology can be extracted and even optimized to a certain extent. But those useless shortcomings will not be attached at all. Bai Yi just wants to say one word. Powerful. When he saw the end of the battlefield in the distance, Bai Yi also ordered the shadow men in the distance to come back. Bai Yi has no interest in contacting the professionals in this dungeon. Originally, I just wanted to save him and didn't think about anything else. If it is discovered later, Bai Yi does not recommend having an extra team of humanoid shadow minions. I heard those committee members mention it before. The bear country is on good terms with the dragon country. If you meet them in the dungeon, they might be able to give you some help. But this time, there was no help, but Bai Yi helped the other party. Just think of it as giving face to both countries. This is Team OSHA. Looking at the early sun slowly shining on the earth, they seem to see the hope of life again. The sun has risen. Natasha covered her eyes and muttered to herself as she looked into the distance. After feeling like they had survived another day, the entire team began to communicate again. Oh my god, where did those black shadow monsters come from? I always feel that they have good intentions, and I hope that is not an illusion. Roman, that's not an illusion. If they had any ill intentions, they would have killed us long ago. When can I get out of this disgusting copy? I'm really fed up with these endless monsters at night. We'll get out, we will. When I get out, I must tell my good brother that I have liked his second aunt for a long time. Quote. A few people chatted casually, some were complaining, some were happy, and most of them were jokes between comrades. Natasha looked back and said seriously to everyone, I'm lucky this time, don't be careless. Hearing this, several people couldn't help but smile and said nothing. Before Bai Yi and others arrived at this copy, these people had already arrived early. Although the monsters at the beginning were weak and few in number, those nights were also the most difficult. After all, everything was basically unknown. A few months later, the number of monsters attacking them began to increase, but at least some were vulnerable and could barely survive. For some unknown reason, although the monsters here are all the same kind of monster called decay, their forms are all kinds of strange. The most common one is the dwarf-like decline monster, which will leave a sticky and disgusting purple mud after death. The rest decline. There are some changes, and the various forms are simply outrageous. Fortunately, this group of professionals did not encounter a special monster decline tonight, otherwise they might have been wiped out long before the Shadow Legion arrived. But, although the danger of team destruction was temporarily avoided, Natasha was still very worried. She doesn't think this is because the strength of people like her has increased, but because the monster's situation is becoming more and more terrifying. If the monsters in the previous dungeon were all brainless and weak, allowing players to kill them. Now these monsters are out in groups, and it is clear that they want to destroy their team. Captain, don't worry, this is just a copy after all. You will definitely be able to get out. Besides, these monsters have no brains. As long as we continue to explore, we will definitely be able to leave safely. A male professional persuaded. Natasha was silent for a moment, then smiled again. Anyway, it's been a few months now. During this period of time, they have spent a difficult and fulfilling life. The purpose of coming to this dungeon this time was to find a key existence named Key, but now Natasha doesn't expect any mission rewards. As long as I can go back alive. This is the best ending. And at the same time, after this shadow army withdrew, nothing was left behind. Corpse, no, there are no dropped items either. It's completely like locusts passing through, leaving no trace behind. And these resources are all piled up in front of Bai Yi. The kill took some time, but it didn't exceed the current limited time of rank 1 shadow extraction. 60 minutes is more than enough. If these times are exceeded, it may really be impossible to extract the shadow minions. Without wasting time, Bai Yi looked at these decaying corpses that were neatly arranged and almost piled up into a hill, and directly activated his professional skill, shadow extraction. Next moment, put those shadows into reality, and the undercurrents surge one by one. It's like a huge quagmire, with countless creatures trying to escape. Soon, new shadow minions crawled out one after another. The moment it appears, it expresses surrender to Bai Yi and leaves everything under Bai Yi's control. Bai Yi waved his hand, and an invisible instruction was given. Immediately, these newly emerged shadow decline are taking action. Explore the decline of monsters and where they appear from. Bai Yi would not believe that these monsters appeared out of thin air, they always appeared from one place. Where these declines occur may be related to clearing this copy. Find the place where this group of decline was born. It is not difficult to think of all the things in this copy. Including boss, customs clearance and other matters, everything may be connected in series. Time flies by. With the blessing of hundreds of shadows fading, the speed of exploration is greatly accelerated. Don't even say it. Although this group of decliners have lower attributes, their speed is really not that slow. Coupled with this huge number, the entire dungeon was explored, and it didn't take long to explore area after area. As time progresses, an unusual terrain has also been thoroughly explored. As soon as he got the news, Bai Yi asked the shadow giant to lift himself up in the palm of his hand and move quickly in that direction. In this copy, basically, it is dominated by small forests, but there are also some tall and short hills. But overall, it's pretty much the same. But the location found by shadow fading was completely different from these terrains. It was a group of tall peaks that seemed insurmountable. Even the lowest cliff seemed to be endless. And under this mountain peak, a cave looks so abrupt, as if it is a reminder to be discovered by others. The cave was about 8 or 9 meters high and seemed extremely unusual. Just because the area around the hole is covered with dark purple mucus, which is directly adhered to the hole, and the center seems to form the anomaly's abyss. Just by looking at it, it feels like someone is staring at her soul. The mucus wrapped around the edge of the hole, if you look at it twice, it is not difficult to see that it is somehow related to those monsters called decay. The same deep purple color. Same sticky, disgusting thing. It's just that as an individual declines, the purple muddy water flowing through the body after death seems to have been diluted a lot. This mountain call is shady, making it even more anomaly. Before Bai Yi arrived, dozens of shadow fades had been sent to check. The internal situation was quickly reported back. The appearance of this cave is very anomaly. Not to mention the sticky purple substance, even the shape is a bit strange. But the inside of the cave seemed a bit ordinary. Bai Yi originally guessed that there was a grotto heaven inside, perhaps inhabited by countless decays, or a mother nest of decay placed here or something like that. But it's obvious. Backfired. Inside this anomaly cave, there is nothing. Yes, basically except for the narrower and narrower passages and the increasingly rare purple mucus, the rest is basically the same as an ordinary cave. It's like it's just an empty shell. Bai Yi thought for a moment, but did not stop his plan to move towards it. Since decline occurs at night, then this cave is for the same reason, so it looks ordinary in the daytime. Bai Yi frowned and thought deeply, and came up with a more reasonable explanation. As if he had guessed the answer, Bai Yi was sure of this guess. Along the way, although I had spent some time, there was still more than half a day before night. In this period of time, Bai Yi caught up on some sleep. Although with his current transcendent body, he wouldn't be burdened even if he didn't sleep for a few days. Bai Yi finally rested. It has nothing to do with the body itself. Maybe it's just pure mental laziness. But, even though there were no monsters to be killed during the day, the group of shadows under Bai Yi were still slowly increasing in strength. This is all due to rank 5 specialized skill Kingdom of Shadows. It was approaching dusk again. This is the second night Bai Yi will spend at Honolulu Island Honolulu copy. Beside Bai Yi, there are still the familiar Shadow Men, Natal Shadow, Black Barton, Ninja, Shadow Giant, etc. But not far away, but there stood a cave that looked like the entrance to hell. The sticky purple mucus made Bai Yi feel strange every time he saw it. When the sun slowly weakens from this side of the land, the entrance of the cave finally reacted, visible to the naked eye. The adhering purple mucus quickly merged and covered the entire edge of the irregular hole. Immediately, the purple slime begins to glow dimly. It was not noticeable at first, not even as bright as the fireflies in the night sky. But as time progresses, the light emitted by these circles of purple mucus became brighter and brighter. A dim purple light shines on the surroundings, making it seem like a purple filter has been added to this small area. Buzz. Single quote. An unknown buzzing sound sounded, and Bai Yi heard it clearly. After this buzzing sound, the cave entrance quietly changed. Those dim purple lights seemed to be stuck together, like a thin film covering the surface of the hole. Little bits of light spread out. This cave entrance becomes a door. A giant portal. I don't know if it's because of the color, but it reminds Bai Yi of the open sandbox games he often played in his previous life. Thinking of this, I felt particularly calm. Even if, when the portal opened, several declines emerged from it, and the same was true. Having just stepped out of the decline, he found Bai Yi, who was alone, and let out an aggressive roar. Although the voice is not loud, the aggression is undeniable. At this time, boom, the shadow giant stepped on it and crushed the weak, fading to death. After seeing the decline that followed, he looked around. That's when I discovered it. Where is Bai Yi alone? It's pitch black all around, and it's actually filled with shadow minions. Boom, single quote. The shadow giant stepped on it again, directly trampling to death a small piece of fading that had just stepped out of the portal and was still in a dazed state. Kill monster weak and declining, experience plus 8W 7760. Kill monster weak and declining, experience plus 8W 7760. Kill monsters weak and declining, experience plus. Drop to be picked up, core of decline x12. Congratulations on reaching level 37. Closing square bracket. A series of experience gains, coupled with the decline of previous kills, at this moment is just enough experience for 36 to jump to level 37. Bai Yi waved his hand. Signal the surrounding shadow men to crush these declines and gain experience. At this time, Bai Yi directly opened his system panel and checked. Player. Bai Yi. Occupation. King of Shadows. Uniqueness. Level 37, 6220, 305W. HP, 11W 7400, 11W 7400. Basic attack power, 5670. Spirit, 370. Equipment, Walker's Dagger, Poisoned Flying Thorn, Critical Damage Kunai, Ancient King Short Thorn. Shadow's Subordinates. Natal Shadow Only, Shadow Water, Shadow Naga X34, Shadow Element X212, Black Barden, Shadow Giant, Shadow Null X137, Shadow Decline Weak X396, Shadow Decline Fat X217. Skills. Shadow Extraction, Rank 1, Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 5, Natal Shadow, Rank 2, King's Domain, Full Level, Shadow Exchange, Full Level. After a casual glance, Bai Yi discovered that the experience required to upgrade to level 37 was actually 3.05 million. This high amount is about 1/3 more than at level 36. Hey, it's getting harder and harder to level up. Bai Yi sighed. But even so, jokingly, Bai Yi has not forgotten that it only took him less than a week to jump from level 1 to level 37. But it can be seen from now that the demand for experience may be increasing in the future. Even in a profession that was so convenient for him to earn experience, he felt a little bit of pressure. The other professionals are even more predictable. I really don't know how those committee members reached such a high level. Did you get it up little by little over time? Bai Yi lay on his back under a tree, just feeling the constant flow of experiences. Kill monster weak and declining, experience plus 8W 7760. Kill monster fat decline, experience plus 11W 5960. Kill monster fat decline, experience plus 11W 5960. Kill monsters weak and declining, experience plus. Drop to be picked up, core of decline x23. Feeling that he is constantly gaining experience, Bai Yi feels a little more relaxed. But even so, he didn't forget the purpose of his coming. He didn't come here to gain experience, but he still had important tasks. So, lie down for a while. Bai Yi lay down to rest and gave another order with a wave of his hand. Subsequently, some shadow mutation nulls, shadow elements, and shadow decline stepped forward and came into contact with the purple slime portal. Although there are still declines. But this cannot stop Shadow's subordinates from obeying orders. When you encounter a new decline, kill it directly on the spot. Then, a slightly funny scene appeared. In front of this purple portal that was not very wide, decline was teleported out one after another. The shadow men crowded in the teleportation door squeezed through like they were squeezing into a subway. If there is a decline, they will be killed. Another one comes out and is killed again. The speed at which these declines poured out obviously could not keep up with the killing speed of this group of shadow men. It's like an assembly line, delicate and fast. Finally, the first of the Shadow's minions to come into contact with the portal appeared. He was a shadow elemental. As soon as his humanoid body came into contact with the purple portal, it seemed as if it had passed through a thin film, passing through it slowly and decisively. First an arm came over, and then half of the body and the entire shadow were absorbed into it. And through the slightly transparent portal, you can see that this shadow has not appeared on the other side. Obviously, he successfully passed the teleportation and reached the source of the decline. Without waiting for a reply, a large number of shadow men swarmed from behind. No matter what is on the other side of the portal. Just rush and that's it. The king's orders are the first layer's priority. Others cannot be listened to and can be completely ignored. Seeing this scene, Bai Yi did not give the order to stop. He wanted to know what was behind this portal. A setting that is different from other dungeons, a monster that is afraid of the sun. It's interesting. Let me see if there's anything else interesting. Bai Yi was lying under the tree, giving orders to the shadow men who passed through the portal with a thought. At the same time, the other side of the portal. The structure is exactly the same as in the cave, but it looks slightly anomaly. The surrounding walls spontaneously emit light. It's just dark purple and looks very hellish. Purple mucus was all over the floor, and it was even squirming constantly. If an ordinary person were here, they would probably lose several bars of sanity. These shadow men had just entered. The purple slime on the surroundings, walls, and ground seemed to be going crazy and began to squirm crazily. The speed was even faster than before, and it was squirming like a small motor. Immediately, on the left wall, a large amount of purple mucus gathered, forming an oval like a hole. Click. Single quote. Just like spitting out melon seeds, a round shell half as tall as a man was spit out from the hole. The round shell rolled around and quickly formed limbs. After standing up suddenly, it is a declining one. There are many holes like this around, and in just a few blinks of an eye, there are a dozen more fading creatures on the ground. But none of this can hinder the progress of the shadow men. After just a few attacks, these declines were like wheat under Michael's knife, falling one after another. Soon, the rate of decline in production at these cave entrances gradually cannot keep up with the speed of clearing operations by the shadow men. Look at the back. One after another, the shadow men walked out of the portal and joined the ranks of the extermination. If these purple slimes were intelligent, they would definitely ask, "Am I the one blasting the troops, or are you the one blasting?" But at this time, these shadow men did not care whether they were smart or not, and acted as arrogantly as bandits entering the city. The entire cave was quickly cleared. There was an endless stream of shadow men entering it. Clean up to the end. The entire cave has been explored, so to speak. The entire cave was killed. Even at this moment, there is not much purple slime left on the wall, and not even a weak decline can be produced. It was also at this time. The portal to the outside world became intermittently visible and seemed very unstable. Seeing this, Bai Yi immediately asked all the shadow men in the cave to withdraw. If they were trapped inside, wouldn't they have lost hundreds of shadow men in vain? Shadow's minions are incredibly fast. The order was executed even faster, and within a moment of the order being issued, he was already back at Bai Yi's side. The results of this exploration behind the portal did not satisfy Bai Yi. Although he killed a lot of decline. But unfortunately, nothing special was found in the cave behind the portal. Even the entire portal cave was thoroughly explored, but nothing was found. At the end, it's just a dead end. Bai Yi frowned slightly, but he was not upset about anything. Just because he didn't find it this time doesn't mean he won't find it next time or the next time. As long as he continues to explore the caves one by one, he believes that he will be able to find the boss of this copy sooner or later. Must be able to. Suddenly, a message was delivered to Bai Yi. Another professional was spotted in the distance. Only, this time it is not a team that has begun to take shape, but only two. Even though it's night now. But with the fading shadows around them and their vision adapted to the night, these two professionals were also seen in detail. One was blonde and looked like he was from America. And another, although he looks like an Asian, his overall obscene and gloomy aura makes him feel a bit like someone from the Neon Kingdom at first glance. After receiving the information, Bai Yi couldn't help but murmured, is it, the team sent by the United States to conquer the dungeon that several committee members mentioned before. Only 2 people, but among them, the people from Neon Country are professionals with SS Plus level qualifications, and the one from Maydigian is even more qualified with SSS level qualifications. Although it is not possible to intuitively feel its strength, Bai has never seen anyone with such qualifications so far. Except for those committee members who are no longer at the same level. Immediately afterwards, Bai received a system prompt. Your shadow subordinate, shadow decline, weak, is dead. Your shadow subordinate, shadow decline, fat, is dead. Your shadow subordinate, shadow decline, weak, has. Bai's eyes narrowed. Dare to kill my men. The group of shadow fades that were monitoring the surroundings were wiped out one after another, but the message was also sent back at the last moment. Honolulu Island, within the Honolulu copy. Somewhere plain. The blonde man from the American Empire held up his long hair, and another stream of flame spurted out from his mouth. A shadow hidden behind a tree faded and burned to death. Then the blonde man closed his mouth and the color of his pupils changed from bright gold to blue. Hey, Fujikawa Kenta, you go deal with the remaining ones. The blonde man said to the neon countryman next to him like he was training a dog. Yes, yes, a neon countryman named Kenta Fujikawa pulled out the martial warrior sword. He softly called the name of Tengu, and then 2 shadows of wings appeared behind him, and disappeared from the place with a strong step. Until it shows up again. He had already arrived at the location where the shadow faded in the distance. After several consecutive slashes, the shadow decline was eliminated one by one. Immediately after the solution, Kenta Fujikawa did not return to the blonde man, thinking. Aaron, isn't it SSS level qualification? Remember this for me. How do you say something from Long Guo? If there is a way to turn around someday, eating raw durian will be both bitter and sweet. Wait, I seem to have remembered a word wrong, forget it Baga. Far away, the American blonde man named Aaron urged, you loser, does it take so long to deal with these fools? Don't forget the purpose of our trip. Yes, yes, Fujikawa Kenta responded quickly and quickly returned to his side. Aaron pressed the real-time translator next to his ear again. He has grown up in his family since he was a child, and even in the entire United States, he belongs to the group of apex-level beings. So, even though learning 6 languages for easy communication is a required course, he didn't have much time to learn other languages, so he just spent a few days of pocket money to customize this real-time translation headset. After a few words of encouragement, Aaron looked at the moon hanging high in the night sky. It's really boring. I've been coming to this dungeon for several days and I haven't gained anything at all. There are more and more of these monsters. There are actually a few people covered in pitch black appearing today. It's really disgusting. Aaron was speechless, with a look of displeasure on his face. Yes, yes, everything you said is right. Kenta Fujikawa nodded and bowed, vividly embodying the tradition of the Neon Country. On the other side, information is sent back. Bai frowned slightly, these 2 people are not that simple. One can spit out flames, and the flames will directly vaporize the trees and shadows, and they will burn and disappear. You can imagine how high the temperature is. The other one can recite a name and then use the corresponding ability. Just like when he said Tengu just now, 2 shadows of wings appeared behind his back, and his speed was greatly enhanced. This group of people, there is a way to die. Bai frowned slightly, a little dissatisfied. Such a powerful professional. If it can be extracted into a shadow subordinate, wouldn't it be a bloody gain? No way. He originally didn't want to take action to kill him, probably because of the friendship between being from the same human race. Of course, this friendship is false and can be broken by just finding an excuse. Bai doesn't have much affection for the people of the American Empire and the Neon Kingdom. Again, they directly killed a dozen of Bai's shadow decline, which made Bai want to kill. Of course, this is just one of the excuses. If they meet by chance and the 2 people on the other side make sarcastic and discriminatory remarks, Bai will also take action. Unless the other person greets her with a smile and treats Bai as a companion, is this possible? Impossible. The goals of those 2 people and Bai's own mission are completely opposite. It is a purely competitive relationship. It is simply impossible to avoid conflicts. It seems, after this battle, 2 powerful shadow men will definitely be added. Just right. The portal here has also disappeared, and there happens to be nothing left to do. So, let him come and meet these 2 people. Bai Yi looked at his group of shadow men and began to order his troops. As the pioneer, natal shadow is of course, and needless to say, the characteristics of undying and indestructible are simply outrageous. The remaining reinforcements were Black Barden, Shadow Giant, Ninja, and a Shadow Purple Stone. The rest of the soldiers. It is 400 Shadow Decline, 100 Shadow Nulls, 60 Shadow Elements, and 30 Shadow Mutated Nulls. Have to say, this terrifying scale is enough to wipe out countless teams of extremely professional professionals. Even Bai Yi felt that he was overqualified. However, the best thing to do is to have everything you need. The key is to annihilate everything, leaving no room for anything. Since he will become an enemy sooner or later, what way is left for him to survive? Thinking of this, Bai Yi couldn't help but think of something. For example, in the process of the hero fighting the Demon King sends out weak subordinates to let the hero level up, so that the opponent can reach the full level to kill him. Or, in some fantasy novels, when the protagonist is still a foundation building, someone from the villain's family will provoke the protagonist so that the protagonist's realm will soar. After beating his son, he will beat me, and after beating me, he will beat his ancestor. All in all, Bai Yi has so many absolutely loyal subordinates, but the other party is just 2 people. By contrast, Bai Yi felt a little emotional. The villain of the Great Demon King is actually myself. But, there is no such thing as bullying the weak here at Bai Yi. What matters is the jungle of the jungle and the survival of the fittest. If the opponent is stronger than him and kills him, then he has nothing to say. After all, can you use Shadow Swap to escape instantly? Bai Yi shook his head, put these trivial matters out of his mind, and immediately gave the order. At this moment, attack the 2 teams of American Emperor Jian and Neon Kingdom. Only more than 100 shadows were left guarding the side, and the rest of the shadows were all broken into pieces and entered Natal Shadow's body. Next moment, Natal Shadow took direct steps, representing most of the Shadow Army, heading towards the destination at an extremely fast speed. Bai Yi looked at the Shadow's back and couldn't help but nodded with satisfaction. As expected of the other him, he is indeed chic. But Shadow didn't care about this. He used his fastest speed and headed towards the 2 teams of American Emperor Jian and Neon Kingdom. The last exposed position is still some distance away from here. If you act in the dark and take action to kill them, it can be regarded as having the help of the right time and place. After all, it is really difficult to identify the densely packed shadow men in the dark night. The shadow men are the same origin as the dark shadow. Is this easy to distinguish? I can't tell the difference. I can't tell the difference at all. Unless there is a large light source, the opponent will definitely be in a weak plus mentally retarded position, which is directly a huge debuff negative state. The journey is not far. But with Shadow speeding up to catch up and using all his speed, he quickly reached his destination. It is clear, it was impossible for the 2 of them to stay in the same place forever, but there was always a campfire to spend the night. Immediately, the Shadow Giant instantly expanded from the Shadow's body. The extremely huge body seemed to be invisible under the cover of the night. Even if you looked up from below, you could only see the disappearance of the bright stars in a corner of the night sky. With the height of the Shadow Giant, he only glanced twice at this area before he found the target. Just see. The Shadow Giant slowly raised his hand and pointed in a direction. Not far away in that direction, there were indeed light sources from some bonfires, with wisps of smoke floating on them. If this wasn't those 2 people, who else could it be? Adieu. As soon as the Shadow Giant comes into contact with the shadow, it disappears quickly like pearls sucked up through a straw in milk tea. Immediately after clarifying the true destination, the shadow quickly headed in that direction. That location. Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron sat around the campfire. The 2 people's wilderness survival skills were not very good, and the whole campfire was a bit of a failure. How did you learn that when you were in school? You couldn't even build a bonfire. Aaron complained. That's right. Kenta Fujikawa immediately stood up and bowed to apologize. Fake. Don't keep bowing and apologizing. What problem will this solve? Aaron rolled his eyes. Yes, you were right. Kenta Fujikawa bowed again. Eren didn't want to take care of his companion anymore and was thinking about other things. The purpose of their visit this time can be said to be very complicated. Not only the family, but even the entire United States and Neon Kingdom were paying close attention to this matter. He even met many big shots during this period. With his status and background, someone who can be called a big shot can imagine how terrifying he is. It seems that there will be no monster called decline in the second half of the night. Eren said casually. Yes, your judgment is very accurate. Kenta Fujikawa nodded in agreement. Eren no longer wanted to take care of him. This attitude was even more humble than that of a servant in his own family and was completely meaningless. No matter whether it was beating or scolding, the other party seemed to have no temper at all. He is obviously a professional with SS Plus qualifications, but he has no personality at all, which makes Eren feel like a few random punches on cotton, with nowhere to vent. At this time, just after Eren finished saying that he was not fading, he saw behind Kenta Fujikawa. There is a dark shadow lurking. When Eren cheered up and was about to stand up, Kenta Fujikawa, who was echoing from the side, reacted immediately when he heard these words. I didn't feel much at all. But after hearing Eren's reminder, he finally realized that there was an inexplicable presence behind him. It's careless, but it's okay. Eren did not attack, but added protection for himself. He has a very strong ability to recover, so he does not need a wet nurse. In addition, he didn't care about his companion beside him, so he was not in a hurry to kill the monster in front of him. So, Kenta Fujikawa in front of him has become a dispensable existence in Eren's eyes. In this case, there is no need to rush to take action at all, the key is to protect yourself from harm. Just see, Eren did not take action immediately, but activated his skills, and a thin layer of scales appeared all over his body. But just this layer of scales allowed him to offset most of the attacks. And Kenta Fujikawa here, like Eren, was very active in these few moments. He himself had some means of recovery, and even a way to save his life and be reborn. He didn't have to worry about being injured. He could have turned around and attacked the inexplicable monster. But he didn't do that. Just because he wanted to kill Eren for more than a day or two, his profession is SS Plus level qualification, Hyaki on Myoji, which can not only become stronger by gaining experience. There is a terrible hidden condition behind it. That is, eating people can improve your qualifications. That's right, it's a qualification that can't be improved at all except for a full-time job. He originally only had S plus level qualifications. By devouring the flesh and blood of his companions, he jumped from the S plus level Great on Myoji to another SS level 100 Demons on Myoji. In recent years, relying on this hidden condition of cannibalism, it has become SS plus level. The first time he saw Eren, he secretly thought that if he ate Eren, who had SSS level qualifications, then he wouldn't it be possible to instantly become an SSS level existence? But I want to think about it. He didn't know what kind of strength the Eren in front of him had, and the title of SSS level also made him afraid. The formation of the temporary team between them was entirely the result of the push by the United States and Neon Country. The two did not know each other at all. After getting along for the past few days, Eren just revealed a few skills, which also made Kenta Fujikawa understand a little bit. At this time, Kenta Fujikawa will not take action. The purpose is to learn more about Eren's skills. With your own strength, can you kill and devour Eren? Shadow didn't expect it either. In these few moments, less than a second, these two sleeping dragon and phoenix chicks thought so much. But he didn't care. His own purpose was to come and kill these two people, and he didn't care at all what the two of them were thinking. Immediately, Natal Shadow stepped out, causing Kenta Fujikawa and Eren to look solemnly in their eyes. Coming, Eren was ready to protect himself. Aikikuso, Kenta Fujikawa took a few steps back and glanced at Shadow and Eren. This moment, the Shadow took 2 steps towards Eren, making Eren a little more vigilant. Although the declines he encountered in the past few days were all slightly weaker beings, the black shadow in front of him made him feel like he could be called an enemy. This guy can pose a threat to yourself. Kenta Fujikawa's eyes widened and he saw Eren covered in scales, thinking in his mind. Does this guy still have any means of defense? Single quote. Haha, I know a few of your skills again. When I tolerate it enough to fully understand it, it will be your death, Aaron. Single quote. But then, something happened that stunned the two of them for a moment. Just see. Natal Shadow took a step forward, but did not attack Aaron. But I stepped on the embarrassing bonfire with my backhand. That's right. Natal Shadow didn't attack the two of them by surprise at all. His first target was this bonfire. Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron were stunned for a moment, and then reacted suddenly. Fake. Don't let him trample it out. Before Aaron could finish his words, the bonfire was extinguished. Even if there are a few scattered sparks splashing out, they won't provide much light. The night in this copy of Honolulu is already very dark. In addition, the only bonfire was extinguished now, and it was completely dark. It directly reminded Kenta Fujikawa of the anime characters in his hometown. Doraemon, I can't see my fingers. Grandma, how could this happen? Kenta Fujikawa looked surprised and took a few steps back. Don't say it's him. Even Aaron, who thought he could perfectly protect himself, looked confused and confused. When did these declines have a brain? He actually stamped out their bonfire. To know, even a few days ago, when they thrust the torch into Fi's face, the other party had no intention of attacking the torch, and only wanted to attack them themselves. All of a sudden, Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron were completely panicked. You must know that among all the 5 senses, vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, no matter which one you are missing, it will not affect the battle too much. At most, it will cause great inconvenience in life. But if there is no vision, it will be simply numb. Unable to see, it was impossible to judge the enemy's position for a while, and he was instantly in a passive position. Suddenly, Aaron's mind turned and he suddenly thought of a coping strategy. It would be impossible to rebuild the bonfire, and the light from the lighter would not be enough to cope with the current situation. But there is another way. That is, the probe that comes with the professional system. As long as it is used properly, you can see the information on the monster's head. This is also in disguise, seeing the monster itself. Use detection, Aaron shouted in a low voice. Oh, Yoshi. Fujikawa Kenta was a little confused at first, but after thinking about it carefully, he understood. Here it is. The two of them called on the probing function of the professional system. Sure enough, I saw the information about the monster in front of me, but I could only see the information floating around. Although it is inconvenient, at least I can determine the general direction and will not be left in a passive position. But soon, the two of them suddenly wondered whether they had seen it wrong. See you soon. Several strings of data appeared above Natal Shadow's head. Natal Shadow. Level 37. HP. 52W 8300, 52W 8300. Status. Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Basic Attack Power. Closing square bracket. Numb. Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron were numb instantly. What's this? What is this? Not much else to say. What the hell is this 520,000 HP? You know, the blood volume of the two of them combined is not half as much. Fake. Is this the boss? Aaron suddenly cursed and lost all thoughts of defense. And protect yourself. The other party's 520,000 HP can be saved. Even if it is hard grinding, it will take a while. He didn't have the time to fight. What if the opponent didn't die but he died first? Aaron cursed loudly, turned around and retreated in an instant, without any reservation. Hearing this curse, Fujikawa Kenta came to his senses instantly. After seeing the large series of data, his head immediately buzzed. This is a direct collision with a boss. Tengu, Nekomata, the new bride. Kenta Fujikawa shouted 3 names fiercely, and then 2 shadows of wings appeared behind him, 2 more tails appeared behind his buttocks, and 8 more steps appeared on each side of his waist and abdomen. It really fits that sentence. I wish I had longer legs and could run faster. He can really grow it. It's just that it's not a foot in the normal sense, but a strange appendage. The two use their own methods. If you want to get directly away from Natal Shadow, run as far away as possible. As for companions, no matter what, you will kill your companions before you kill yourself. But things are unpredictable, and the two of them stopped suddenly before running very far. Boom, single quote. Boom, single quote. Before the two of them could run far, they seemed to have bumped into something. The two of them each raised their heads to look, and were suddenly shocked. Aaron, on his side, looked up. Black Bolton, OSS level. Level 37. HP, 68W1000, 68W1000. Status, Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Basic Attack Power, closing square bracket. As for Kenta Fujikawa, he simply hit a wall. I thought it was a forest and rocks growing side by side, but no matter how I ran, it seemed like I was being blocked intentionally. Then Fujikawa Kenta seemed to have thought of something, and looked up suddenly, but saw nothing. But when he started exploring, when you raise your neck to the sky, you can see. Shadow Giant OSS level 32. HP, 42W1350, 42W1350. Comprehensive Attack Power, 7400-27880. Status, Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Skills, Melt into the Earth level C, Core Resonance level B, Smash, Surround Arms. Nani. Fujikawa Kenta seemed to be shocked. This boss is not finished yet. Another one. No. 2. Is this still a way for people to survive? In times of crisis, some people may become blinded and unable to move. But there are people. You will be more alert and think of ways that you would not normally think of. Just then, Kenta Fujikawa's eyes lit up, he thought of something, and shouted loudly. Aaron sang, "Burn this forest." Chapter 81. Although Aaron was very unhappy with Kenta Fujikawa calling him by his first name and using the word, mulberry, by the way. But now is not the time to worry about this. I have to say that Kenta Fujikawa still has enough brains at critical moments. However, this also exposed a problem with Kenta Fujikawa, that is, he already knew many of Aaron's abilities. One of Aaron's abilities, breathing fire. Although this is not a secret, it also shows that Kenta Fujikawa is paying too much attention to these things. But at this time, even if Aaron thought about this level, he wouldn't care about it. After all, this is the time. Although it cannot be described as a life and death crisis, it can still be regarded as a besieged situation. Even if you pull out a single shadow minion, such as Black Barden or Shadow Giant, they can still kill it perfectly after taking some time. But what happens now? An intelligent humanoid monster takes the lead. He directly stepped on their bonfire and put them in a situation where they couldn't see clearly. On this basis, and adding two behemoths, how could they not fall into a tense situation? But, if the two of them calm down, it won't be a complete dead end. As mentioned before, it will only be a besieged situation at best. After all, the high qualifications are here, and they are much better than ordinary rare professionals. Even judging by monsters, it is no exaggeration to say that even if the two of them cannot be a boss, they will not be able to win titles such as Little Boss and Transcendent Level Elite. At this time, flames condensed in Aaron's mouth, and his pupils instantly turned into bright gold. The next moment, raging flames spurted out of his mouth, directly igniting the entire forest in front of him. This time, although the surroundings were really hot, there was enough light. Don't fall into the dilemma of not being able to see the enemy clearly. But it was precisely because of the light source that Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron experienced drastic changes in their moods. It's just that I couldn't see clearly just now. Now that you can see clearly, look up. Except for the three oppressive generals, a quick glance around. All of them are dark monsters. Some humanoids seem to be constantly gathering and squirming all over their bodies. Some of them are grotesquely shaped, like the products of God's madness, and are even more exaggerated than Kenta Fujikawa's current look. Some of them are not as big as the shadow giants, but they are still very tall, like layers of living barriers. And the most inconspicuous is also the most numerous. Nothing could be better than the densely packed hundreds of short monsters on the outermost edge that make you suffer from trypophobia just by looking at them. Fake, my dear mother, Jesus, what kind of monsters are these? Aaron cursed directly. Quote. Kenta Fujikawa no longer knew what to say and was thinking about how to avoid the battle. The fire exploded in just a few seconds and suddenly became more intense. Firelight illuminated the sky. The whole place was a little hot. Although Fujikawa Kenta and Aaron's faces were red, the expressions on their faces were uglier than their dead wives. This scene, it's better not to see it. All we can do is fight to the death. Aaron's heart was crossed and he was ready to break out of the siege. But Kenta Fujikawa not far away didn't think so. Although with the strength of the two of them, if they fight desperately, it is probably not impossible. But what if it fails? The price is death. In the final analysis, whether you win or lose in this bet, the gains outweigh the losses, so it's better to just run away. Kenta Fujikawa was secretly happy because his profession, called Hyakki Onmyoji, gained the ability to be reborn when he was promoted to SS Plus potential. Although the side effects are painful and it is one time, but this is still a resurrection skill after all. See you soon. Kenta Fujikawa gritted his teeth and shouted two names. Windborn Beast. Shuten Doji. Windborn Beast is one of the ghosts in Hyakki Onmyoji's professional skill, borrowing 100 ghosts. It is obtained after the qualification is advanced to SS+. As long as you recite its name, you can temporarily gain the ability of this ghost. And this ghost named Feng Shengju has the ability to resurrect with his breath after death. However, its ability is a bit awkward when it is embodied in Kenta Fujikawa. After using this ability, you must die within a certain period of time before you can be resurrected, and the body after death must be intact. The side effect was that Kenta Fujikawa's own appearance changed semi-permanently. Moreover, if you are successfully resurrected, this ability cannot be used again. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a one-time use. But, as long as it is paired with another ability, it can perfectly possess the ability of rebirth. With this ability, Fujikawa Kenta's confidence in escaping was greatly increased. And the source of that ability is named Shuten Doji. Although this Shuten Doji is a very famous ghost, his ability is reflected in Kenta Fujikawa, which is that after being beheaded, the head can survive alone for a short time. Although both abilities are a bit painful, together they make up for each other and can be regarded as a resurrection ability. But that's about it. It actually gave Kenta Fujikawa something to be proud of. Ha ha ha, Aaron-san. Goodbye. I will come back to collect the corpse for you. Kenta Fujikawa smiled and recited a name again, Aaron Fire. Immediately, Kenta Fujikawa's appearance changed. First, the face became a bit beast-like, but still retained some human parts. Then the hair on the face increased greatly, making it look a bit nondescript. Secondly, the shadow of the wings behind him began to have a fluorescent-like effect and became slightly more substantial. This is the effect of chanting the name of the green heron fire. Buzz. Single quote. Kenta Fujikawa first laughed wildly, and then violently lifted his wings behind him, blowing up a stream of smoke. Soaring straight to the sky. Aaron gritted his teeth in anger as he looked at Kenta Fujikawa flying up. I was so angry that I even had a dull pain in my stomach. Right now, the one who wants Kenta Fujikawa to stay here forever is not these shadow men, but him. Aaron. Fake, don't let me catch you. Aaron lost his position for a moment. He couldn't imagine Kenta Fujikawa successfully escaping. Facing this dense group of monsters alone. What a joke. Even if he is lucky enough to survive, he will be severely injured and cannot recover in a short time. Looking up, Aaron took out a prop in his hand. It was a cross with a faceless sculpture on it wearing a crown of thorns. I hope this fool can fight to the death. Aaron chanted in his heart. The nails on the left hand of the sculpture have disappeared. If you look closely at the sculpture, only the nails on the right hand and right foot are left. Immediately afterwards, see the prayer in Aaron's heart. It will take effect immediately. Of course, there's no magic in how things work out. It can even be said that it has very physical properties and directly contains several of Mr. Niu's laws. Just see, Kenta Fujikawa had just flown not far and was about to break through the sky and run away. Immediately, he was photographed by a big hand made of black shadow. Snapped. Single quote. It was the shadow giant who took action. It doesn't matter if you can fly. He will take action. Just like a normal human being, swatting a flying fly, easily and casually. And all this happened in the blink of an eye. It only takes less than a few seconds. If Bai Yi were present, he would definitely say, wonderful, so wonderful. Who would have thought that in just a few short moments, these two foreigners had so many tricks, but they were still slapped by the shadow giant. Everything happened very fast, almost comically fast. The scene changes. You can see that Kenta Fujikawa was slammed to the ground, and a human figure was imprinted on the solid land. Kenta Fujikawa HP 14514. It's too much. Too much. Kenta Fujikawa used the only curse words he had left. There are not many swear words in Neon Country. They don't know how to greet their parents, and their vocabulary is mainly based on personal character, such as pervert, disgusting, nerd, and confused. Therefore, this is the most direct curse word that Kenta Fujikawa has ever said. Although there is no aggression at all, it cannot change the current situation. Even, Kenta Fujikawa is still a little unwilling to give up and wants to get up and fly again. But unexpectedly, Eren said something. Don't always think about escaping, you idiot. If you and I join forces, we may not be able to get out. Eren roared angrily. This sentence seemed to arouse Kenta Fujikawa's fighting spirit, and his eyes seemed to ignite a little will to fight. Immediately, I saw Kenta Fujikawa slowly getting up, his whole body making a thumping sound, as if he was ready for a battle. That's right, that's it, go for it. Eren began to feel a little happy. But I didn't expect it. The next second, Kenta Fujikawa moved around twice, flapped his wings, and flew into the sky again. This time, he deliberately avoided the shadow giant for a distance. But I didn't expect it. A burst of joint sound waves came from the sky, and before he could react, another circle of extremely strong black shadow spider webs trapped him. Unable to flap his wings, Kenta Fujikawa fell heavily again. You can still see it even after it falls. The dozens of Shadow Naga and the Black Barton smiled like a joke. Fujikawa Kenta shouted angrily, this time, but it completely dispelled Kenta Fujikawa's thoughts of escaping. It seems that flying in the air is completely unfeasible. See this scene. Eren couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of foam. In fact, he was not without flying skills. However, it takes a certain amount of time to perform. His profession is final dragon species with SSS level potential, and his future is limitless. But looking forward to the present, only if we can survive into the future can we have this future to look forward to. It's not that he can't fly. It's just that you need to activate the full-time skill, half-dragon transformation, which takes nearly a minute. Eren didn't dare to gamble. If you are in your current state, you may not be able to survive, but if you stand still for a minute, you will definitely die. The flight escape plan that he originally had after becoming a half-dragon was completely cancelled by Eren. This is the case at this time. Only a fight to the death. Before Eren could think about it further, the shadows around him had already launched an offensive. The short period of less than 10 seconds just now was just to test the opponent's ability, so he didn't take action. Take a look now. One just knew how to run away, the other was a little frightened. The worries about SSS level and SS plus level potential in my mind were swept away, and I started to do it directly. I thought it was very strong. Looking at it now, there is no direct battle at the first time. Doesn't this illustrate their assessment of themselves? They don't have the confidence to deal with such a large number of shadow minions. Knowing this is enough. The first to attack was still Natal Shadow. All he saw was that he was holding the Ancient King's thorn in one hand, and his feet were as fast as the wind, and he came to Eren's side in the blink of an eye. What? Eren was shocked. He didn't expect that the speed of this Natal Shadow was so fast, and even he almost couldn't keep up with its speed. You know, even in human form, he is still the best among many professionals. Aha! Single quote. Natal Shadow has no nonsense and no superfluous actions. A short stab passed directly and hit Eren's neck. The purpose is to hit the Achilles heel and slit the most exposed part of the neck, the arteries. Suddenly, it was a brief and rare spark. Looking closely at the area scratched by the short thorns, a thin scale appeared in advance. Hiss. Eren covered his neck, grimacing in pain. Although it was not scratched, the pain was real. You monster, die. Eren's pupils turned bright gold, and the sun condensed in his mouth. Unexpectedly, Shadow seemed to have been prepared. Half step forward, he hit Eren on the jaw with an uppercut with his left hand. Buzz. Single quote. Boom. A brief explosion flashed in the air for several meters, and the rest was held tightly in Eren's mouth. Feeling the pain that was like oral ulcers plus esophageal erosion, Eren was even more furious. But it's obvious. All of Eren's skills have been seen through, and his current anger is pure incompetent rage. Eren didn't wait for any further action. I felt a heavy weight on my back. Looking closer, He didn't know where it came from, but hit him hard from behind. Aaron touched his back subconsciously, and Aaron was a little dazed. Before he could come to his senses, another harpoon struck behind his head, pointing directly at the back of his head. Instinctively, Aaron turned sideways. Just when he was proud of his combat instinct, he saw the shadow in front of him attacking him again. A short stab from the ancient king was about to hit the eye socket. Fake, can't these monsters be singled out? Aaron lost his mind and actually prayed to the numerous shadows to send representatives to fight with him one by one. But it's obvious, not swarming to kill them was already the biggest concession. Fark. Aaron didn't know where the fighting skills he learned in his family went. It turned out to be very handy during practice. What now? In the extreme panic, I almost forgot everything. Once a person is cornered, he or she will use any trump card. But Aaron has no conditions to use it now. Therefore, we can only create conditions. Asshole. Hey, do you have any delaying skills? 1 minute. 1 minute. Kenta Fujikawa avoided Black Barton's attack. While dragging his injured body and running away, Kenta Fujikawa complained hurriedly when he heard this key word. Yes. Aaron-san, why didn't you tell me earlier? Huh, really? Aaron continued to move closer to Fujikawa Kenta under tremendous pressure. Both of them are considered semi-disabled. As long as he fights for a while, his blood volume will probably be cleared. But let alone being cleared, even now, the two of them's will to fight is almost gone. Even if he has super high qualifications and a super rare profession, he can't help but fight like this. Not to mention a bunch of BOSS level other monsters hitting me in front of me. You have to be wary of sneak attacks from time to time behind you. There are even a few monsters in the surrounding area that can come to join in the fight. The key is that they can just make up for the damage and then leave, without even affecting the rhythm of the main force. This hasn't lasted long. The two of them were already exhausted mentally and physically. Although both of them have the ability to recover quickly, they can't keep up with this kind of damage. Huh, can you beat me? Just a tough talk. Oh, can you still fight? Just hold on. Even Fujikawa Kenta and Aaron themselves are already aware of this situation. At this moment, two people must hold nothing back and use all their cards. Whether he can get out is unknown, but if he doesn't do this, he will definitely die. Do you really have a way to delay time? Aaron asked with the corners of his mouth bruised. Although he was protected by scales, it was because of this that whether he was hit by a sharp weapon or a blunt weapon, all of them were converted into injuries similar to blunt weapons. Stop talking about it. His back was covered in bruises and bruises. However, this is considered a good thing. If it were not for the protection of these scales, I am afraid that it would have been scattered here and there. There is an old saying in the Dragon Kingdom, only villains and remember it wrongly. A gentleman's words are hard to chase after a dead horse. I do have a way to delay time. Kenta Fujikawa assured Aaron with awkward and distorted words. If you can go back alive, learn more Long Guyu. Aaron was speechless. Well, I hope Aaron-san is gone. Kenta Fujikawa's head had turned into a beast, his brows furrowed, he made a hand seal, and then shouted. Shenyan. Immediately, a burst of smoke spread directly and enveloped the two people. But only for a second. The smoke disappeared immediately as if it was blown away by the breeze. Has this skill expired? No, on the contrary, this actually contributed to its success. This professional skill called Shenyin is a time and space skill. Although it feels very high-end, it is actually just a small space with a time multiplier of 100, 1. Wherever you use Shenyin, after the Shenyin expires, it will reappear somewhere. Although it feels a bit useless, in this case, it has to be said that the photo was of great use. In the hidden space of the gods, Aaron completed his half-dragon transformation. Kenta Fujikawa himself once again borrowed the abilities of several ghosts and recovered some of his injuries. Ang-ho. Single quote. As soon as Aaron appeared, the surrounding area instantly became a little hotter. Look at him again. Every part of his body has been blown to pieces, and his whole body has basically no human characteristics. If it seems far-fetched, the only thing that looks like a human being is standing. And the rest. A pair of light red wings grew on its back, and its entire head turned into something similar to a fire dragon. The entire body was covered with scales, and even the hands turned into claws. It is said that he is half dragon, but in fact he only retains the remaining human characteristics. After all, only by retaining this, can Eren know that he is a human being. On the other hand, Kenta Fujikawa. The wide jaw was a bit intrusive, a pair of horns sprouted from the head, and little will-o'-the-wisps floated around him. There are 5 more tails of different colors behind the butt, which look like they have opened the transcendent level VIP of yellow, blue, purple, green, and red diamonds respectively. This is my ultimate form. Come on, Eren-san. Don't underestimate the bond between us. Fujikawa Kenta Chuji yelled. Eren seemed to have abandoned him, and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed for the man next to him. Eren turned his head. Without even aiming, a mouthful of blazing flames spurted out from his mouth. It was like a large flamethrower, burning all the time. But before he could squirt twice, another figure quickly approached, holding the ancient king's thorn, and launched a fierce offensive. Who else could it be if it wasn't Natal Shadow? Immediately afterwards, Black Bolton just waved 2 giant mutated hands and slapped them, and the sharp claws on them reached the lower backs of Kenta Fujikawa and Eren. Look at the sky again. The shadow giant just slapped it down and enveloped the 2 of them. Aha! Single quote. Snapped. Single quote. Boom. Single quote. The 3 extremely fierce attacks were as perfect as if they had been coordinated countless times. All of a sudden, the damage started to appear one after another. Kenta Fujikawa HP 15182. Kenta Fujikawa HP 11049. Kenta Fujikawa HP 15681. Eren HP 7393. Eren HP 9269. Eren HP 6782. As an old saying from the Dragon Kingdom says, it's better to break 1 finger than to hurt 10, Baga. Eren-san, kill this humanoid first. Kenta Fujikawa seemed to have figured something out. That's right. If 2 people are attacked by 3 parties like this, they will respond separately. The result can be imagined. Even if the blood volume on one side is reduced to 0, the damage dealt will be evenly distributed among these 3 enemies. I am afraid that at most it will be a serious injury. But, if 2 people join hands to attack one of them, they will definitely be able to kill one of them even if they are seriously injured. Without the 3-party encirclement, if you fight your way out of the dense group of monsters, you might still have a chance of survival. And look around. Among the 3 parties, 2 have the title of boss, 1 is like a monster among monsters, and the other is too tall to look like. You can tell who is the best to fight at a glance. That's him. Kill him first. So what if it has 520,000 blood? It's not that big, so its defense must not be high. Kenta Fujikawa made what he thought was a correct judgment. Immediately afterwards, Eren nodded to make this clear. Subsequently, the 2 launched a direct attack, and saw the yellow and green tails behind Kenta Fujikawa's butt inserted into the ground. Immediately, a hurricane hung in front of Natal Shadow, blowing him back several meters. Several more spikes of earth immediately appeared all around, heading straight for his head. At this moment, Eren's attack also followed closely. The majestic flames spurted out fiercely, as if they were about to melt the Shadow. But Shadow didn't panic at all. He waved the short thorn in his hand a few times, directly breaking the soil spikes, and walked slowly towards the 2 of them under the flames. Shadow HP 5839. Shadow HP 7930. Shadow HP 9400. Shadow HP 15400. Shadow HP 21500. Kenta Fujikawa and Eren, on the other hand, were attacking the shadows while desperately resisting the killing power of Black Barton and the Shadow Giant. He was attacked by tens of thousands of people at a time. But once he saw the shadow, the damage he received became more and more powerful every second. The 2 of them couldn't help but feel sincerely. It's worth it. Although he was injured, the thought that the humanoid monster would die soon was so worth it. It's simply worth it than eating takeout and getting 7 off for orders over 25. Although Fujikawa, Kenta and Eren are constantly injured, their faces are smiling. We are indeed a natural partner, Eren-san. Kenta Fujikawa shouted with a smile. Yeah, just kill it like this. Half-dragon Eren responded with a grin. At this time of hope, it seems that it is only a matter of time before he survives. The thoughts behind the 2 people's backs couldn't help but become more active. Half-dragon Aaron. Finally we got this fool into trouble, the people from the family are still useful. Single quote. Kenta Fujikawa. Oh, look, if I don't find a chance to kill you, how can I become SSS level if you don't die? Single quote. Turn around. The two of them smiled at each other, as if they were thinking of ways to harm each other. If someone else sees it. Maybe I really thought that these two people were inseparable brothers. It was also at this time that Fujikawa Kenta and Aaron suffered a lot of damage, but they continued to push back the shadows and inflict uninterrupted damage to them. Behind the two of them, Black Barton has a black shadow spider web, ejected from the mouthparts of the spider body on the lower body. Aaron turned his head and blew flames from his mouth to burn him directly. But in this gap, Kenta Fujikawa's attention was not focused on blocking the shadow for a moment, so the shadow directly attacked again. A short stabbing attack came. Aaron HP 7393. Aaron HP 9269. Aaron HP 6782. Quote exclamation mark quote. Fujikawa Kenta was shocked, turned around and launched an attack. Killing stone. A stone shadow appeared in his mouth. Kenta Fujikawa breathed out lightly, and the stone shadow dissipated. And Fujikawa Kenta's breath suddenly turned into a pool of dark green venom. A moment later, it splashed on the shadow's feet. Shadow HP 7839. Shadow HP 6930. It can be said that the damage is not high, but it is somewhat insulting. In a blink, the offensive in Shadow's hands changed and turned towards Kenta Fujikawa. Fujikawa Kenta. Gone. I should have known better that I wouldn't have helped. But things in the world cannot be turned back in time just because you want to regret it. The next moment, the 3 consecutive blows that originally hit Half-Dragon Aaron turned into 6 consecutive blows on Kenta Fujikawa. Kenta Fujikawa HP 15182 x 2. Kenta Fujikawa HP 11049 x 2. Kenta Fujikawa HP 15681 x 2. You've done evil, Baga. Kenta Fujikawa covered his heart, suffering while bearing the injury. The rest of this battle is like a mechanized assembly line. Fujikawa Kenta and Half-Dragon Aaron relied on their own recovery ability to fight and carry. Shadow here. Even if he was blown back a few meters by the hurricane, he had already become accustomed to it. It can only be said that the repelling effect of this hurricane is not as good as the repelling effect of the water flow in tidal disaster. Carrying the third layer damage of hurricanes, ground thorns, and dragon flames, Shadow's pace continued to advance steadily, giving the 2 fatal blows from time to time. It was impossible to release these attacks all the time. During the gap, many Shadow men came to attack Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron, thus consuming their attack methods. As for these Shadow minions who were doing last-ditch damage, they quietly withdrew when their blood volume was close to half, without giving Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron a chance to kill them. This undoubtedly made it much more difficult for the two of them to kill the Shadow. They were so angry that they almost lost their voices. And behind the two people, Black Bolton and Shadow Giant are also attacking. But these two things are just like the invincible Xiaoqiang. One is a tank Xiaoqiang with a hard shell and thick blood, and the other is a smart Xiaoqiang who can fly and hide. Every time the attack fell, these two took a beating, but they managed to survive every time. Whenever two people's blood volume is less than 30%, they will enter a weak state. Kenta Fujikawa will activate the Divine Hidden skill, allowing the two of them to enter the Divine Hidden space again to recover some blood. It's really just that I can hold on and not die. As they fought, the two of them almost lost their energy. This group of Shadow men can maintain a high-frequency fighting state, but these two people cannot. Although the body can keep up. But after several hours of fighting, the scene in front of me became a bit blurry. Aaron cheered himself up and said, "I remember, these monsters will die when exposed to sunlight." Half-Dragon Aaron remembered this setting and said it. These remarks also inspired Kenta Fujikawa. "I didn't rub it. That's it. Even if we can't kill that humanoid monster for a while, victory belongs to us." Fujikawa Kenta agreed. That's all. The two were inspired again and continued fighting. Nearly 10 hours. Finally, the dawn that the two of them had been waiting for arrived. "Look at that. It's simply the glory of the Lord." Half-Dragon Aaron was excited. Quote exclamation mark quote. Fujikawa Kenta was already in tears and was about to celebrate on the spot. This moment, thinking that the monsters in front of them will disappear soon, it will not be in vain for them to persist until now. They thought of two words together in their hearts. It's worth it. In a daze, dawn shone across the earth, and under the expectant eyes of Fujikawa Kenta and Aaron, slowly it fell on the monster on the edge. But, the instant collapse and death they thought did not happen. Look, I saw it wrong. I must have seen it wrong. Kenta Fujikawa rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Aaron was silent, and the gloom in his heart gradually grew. But a few more blinks of time passed. The dawn sun spread all over the land, shining on Kenta Fujikawa, Aaron, and all the shadow men. But there is still no instantaneous collapse and death. Gudong, half-dragon Aaron swallowed in despair. Only one hope was dashed. The only hope left now is to grind these humanoid monsters with 520,000 blood to death, and then break out of the siege. Exploration. Half-dragon Aaron launched the investigation, looked at the shadow, and immediately felt overjoyed. Seeing the expression of half-dragon Aaron, Kenta Fujikawa stiffly twisted his neck to look at him, and the expression on his face became much more exciting. Just see. Natal Shadow. Level 37. HP 3W 1400, 52W 8300. Status: Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Basic Attack Power. Closing square bracket. There are only about 30,000 HP left. Hope is around the corner. Done. Half-dragon Aaron shouted while holding back the pain. His own throat was almost burned through. After all, even his iron-clad body had already melted after being sprayed with dragon flames all night. Now there are only a few burns on the throat, but they are all healed. Ang ho. Single quote. Half-dragon Aaron forcibly activated a mouthful of dragon flames, directly attacking the shadow. And Shadow's last 30,000 blood is also dropping visibly to the naked eye. Shadow HP 5839. Shadow HP 7930. Shadow HP 9400. Shadow HP 15400. Shadow HP 21500. Fujikawa Kenta's eyes widened and he celebrated in advance. It's almost done. We can fight it out. Visible to the naked eye. Shadow's blood volume is declining rapidly. From more than 30,000 blood, it has dropped to 20,000, and even lower and lower. No one would pay attention at this time to why Shadow's blood volume was so low, but he was still able to move. The two are most concerned about. There is only the blood volume that is about to be cleared now. Level 37. HP 1W5900, 52W 8300. HP 9700, 52W 8300. HP 5830, 52W 8300. HP 2333, 52W 8300. HP 052W 8300. Natal Shadow's blood volume was cleared, his body collapsed, and the ancient king's short thorn in his hand fell into the air. The shadow standing on the ground disappeared. Instead, there was a pool of shadows that existed only on the ground. Finally, it's over. Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron were overjoyed. They once again withstood the attack of the two monsters behind them, and then limped towards the vacant position and fled. In just a few seconds, the two of them were filled with hope. A great future and situation are right in front of you. Even, both of them had hallucinations, as if they had directly cracked the dungeon, completed the mission, become the strongest in the world, dominated the entire blue star, and reached the pinnacle of life. But what they didn't expect was that inconspicuous flat shadow suddenly changed again. Nani? Kenta Fujikawa said in his native language. Quote exclamation mark quote. Half-dragon Aaron's mouth trembled in fear. At this moment, the two of them had already taken advantage of the air raid and ran away a few meters, just in front of the shadow. Right under the eyes of Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron, the shadow instantly reshaped its shape. Resurrection on the spot. It directly changed from a plane to a solid object. The two of them were shocked, and even had their jaws dislocated. Going up half a minute, you can see the series of numbers that made them both deeply despair. Natal Shadow. Level 37. HP 52W8300, 52W8300. Status: Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Basic Attack Power. Closing square bracket. Still, it's the 52 blood volume. Half-Dragon Aaron took several steps back and almost fell to the ground. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Hallucination. Hallucination. Kenta Fujikawa covered his eyes with a look of despair. But even if the two took the initiative not to think about it, they still couldn't help but think of something. The monster in front of me can be resurrected on the spot. What about the group, with him? Can it also be resurrected in place? If you think about it carefully, it's no wonder that all the elites sent by Blue Star are all here. So, is it because of these monsters? It's scary to think about it. I'm afraid of thinking too carefully. For a moment, both of their heads were on the verge of crashing, and their brain CPUs were about to spontaneously combust. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Fujikawa Kenta kept chanting these words, and his whole person seemed to be in a state of madness. Aha! Single quote. Poof! Single quote. The short thorn in Shadow's hand struck again and stabbed the half-dragon Aaron's eye socket. This time, while the half-dragon Aaron was stunned, he actually hit the target, instantly damaging him through the crystal eyelids outside the vertical pupil. Oh, mess with fake. Half-dragon Aaron felt pain and instantly understood the current situation. Looking at Kenta Fujikawa, he looked crazy. He actually flapped his wings again and tried to fly out. But it's a pity. Snapped. Single quote. The Shadow Giant's giant hand came down heavily again, slamming him back into the ground. What a coincidence, it happened to be the same trap as before. Hey, Half-Dragon Aaron was a little desperate, but he still didn't give up the idea of living. He watched Kenta Fujikawa flying up and down again and again, and he almost couldn't hold himself tight anymore. Just saw it. Kenta Fujikawa flew up and was photographed. Fly again and be photographed again. After several consecutive blows, several of his teeth were smashed away, countless bones in his body were broken, and even the pair of phantom wings became invisible for a limited time. Quote. Half-Dragon Aaron's mind went blank, but his body used fighting skills almost instinctively. After everything is left to instinct, it is actually easier than if you rush to deal with it first. But this is of no use. Because the ending is already determined. Kenta Fujikawa seemed to see this situation clearly, and he suddenly gave up his resistance in front of Half-Dragon Aaron. Oh, goodbye Aaron-san. I am very happy to fight side by side with you. Kenta Fujikawa said with a smile, showing two missing front teeth, a bruised nose and a swollen face. Not to mention Half-Dragon Aaron, if Bai Yi were here, he would be moved for just 0.01 seconds. But what no one knows is that Kenta Fujikawa actually has a hidden reason for doing this. Joke. The ability he borrowed from Wind Beast and Shuden Doji will expire in less than a while. How long will it take for him to die now? After his death, despite the raging floods. After all, it is Aaron who will die. When he is resurrected, he can even pick up a corpse and eat it to become SSS+. No more resistance. The horns on Kenta Fujikawa's head disappeared, and the features of his waist, abdomen, tail and other parts also disappeared at the same time, and his defense and recovery abilities were greatly weakened. Under the continuous bombardment of Black Bolton and Shadow Giant, the blood volume is cleared directly to 0. Looking at Kenta Fujikawa lying on the ground, unable to get up again, Half-Dragon Aaron's face was filled with black lines. At this point, all he can do is, it's ruined. I saw him take out the faceless sculpture cross, put it on his chest and said silently, I hope after my death, be able to live again. All of a sudden, the 3 nails nailed to the faceless sculpture disappeared, the entire cross disappeared, and the faceless sculpture itself disappeared with it. This item has no rating, no matter who in the Aaron family launches the investigation. Class. The only one who knows about it is this prop, named Divine Weapon. It also has the effect of putting it in your hand and silently reciting it, and your wish will come true. Before Aaron went out, his family gave this prop to him as a talisman. After all, if a prop is a family member who can maintain the potential of SSS level, it will still be profitable. Seeing the props disappear, Half-Dragon Aaron no longer held on. Whatever, it doesn't matter anymore, Since you can't fight or escape, it's better to show off. You pose, I pose, everyone poses, the grass on the tomb is green. After giving up resistance, Half-Dragon Aaron's super recovery ability failed, and the scales all over his body also loosened. At the last moment before his death, Half-Dragon Aaron felt that his throat was no longer so painful, as if he had taken a sip of water. On the other side, the Baiyi system sent a prompt. Kill player Fujikawa Kenta, experience plus 9W5340. Closing square bracket. Kill player Aaron Fesbraham, experience plus 11W2310. Closing square bracket. Since the target belongs to the same camp, human, the experience is reduced to the original 15%. Experience plus 20W7650. Closing square bracket. But what makes Baiyi a little concerned is, the eyes of these two guys were not full of despair before they died, but they still had a little bit of longing for the future. So, why is this happening? He knew that he was going to die soon, but on the surface he acted very normal, as if he didn't take death into consideration. To be precise, do you think you might not die? Something is wrong. 9 out of 10 points are wrong. This matter, no matter which angle you look at it, is very unreasonable. Although the Half-Dragon Aaron is a member of the American Empire, he does not seem to be a person of faith, so the faceless sculpture cross in his hand seems extremely inconsistent. As for Kenta Fujikawa, his abilities are simply too weird. What about having 8 spider legs, 7 or 8 tails, a pair of wings, and controlling elements? Although each of these abilities is not very strong, they are complex and diverse. Even among them, Kenta Fujikawa can use a space-time ability called Shenyan, which can be said to be extremely difficult to deal with. With this enemy, even if the opponent has the ability to resurrect on the spot, Baiyi will not be too exaggerated. After all, his natal shadow itself has the property of immortality. It's not too much to say that others have the ability to be resurrected. It can even be said to be reasonable. But, even if the other party has these abilities, it doesn't mean that Baiyi will let him go. It is a hostile existence. At the end of this mission, there is no possibility of a win-win situation. It is a scene of absolute opposition. If he kills them all now and lets them go after the opponent is resurrected, Baiyi will feel that he will be a little angry. So, this situation will never happen. Even if you can be resurrected, it will happen later. Bring the body here first. Baiyi ordered casually, with most of his attention focused on this. And the rest part of the attention. It was a location where a part of the shadow faded and was explored throughout last night. 3 portal caves. Yes, it's the kind of portal cave we encountered last night. This thing seems to be very common in this copy. In just one night, Shadow Decline discovered these numbers again. Baiyi's instinct was not wrong. The key point of this copy is definitely in these caves. If the guess is good, behind these cave portals, the same fruitless phenomenon as last night may still occur. But this phenomenon will never happen more than once. There will definitely be something to gain. This is Baiyi's confidence in his intuition. He waved his hand. Baiyi ordered again, and dozens of shadow fades stood outside the portal caves, waiting for them to open. The locations of these locations are also well known to Baiyi. On the other side, the bodies of Kenta Fujikawa and Aaron are also being transported on the road, and they will surely arrive soon. Time flies by. Along the way, the slightly larger shadow men directly open the way. The speed of the shadow is extremely fast. Up to this point, it was not much slower to transport the corpse. It seemed that time was fleeting. Baiyi didn't rest long before he saw his shadow army arriving not far from the forest. Not long after, many figures in the distance are already close in front of you. Baiyi looked at the 2 corpses and was a little speechless. Just saw it. The body of the Half-Dragon Aaron was fine. Because of its thin scales, it was okay to be dragged all the way. On the other hand, look at Kenta Fujikawa. The clothing, which was made in an unknown country, was mostly worn out. Because it was dragged along with its back pressed against the ground, the large piece of fabric on the back waist was either damaged by battle or worn out, and most of it was already torn. You can even see half of the white buttocks. It's really blind. Baiyi frowned, and then without any nonsense, he directly used his professional skill, shadow extraction. The first person to respond was the Half-Dragon Aaron. The shadow instantly began to tremble. Immediately afterwards, a pair of winding dragon horns first poked out of the shadow, and then the whole new shadow slowly rose up as if riding an escalator. A few seconds later, an upright dragon-shaped shadow subordinate is born. The whole thing is somewhat similar to the half-dragon Aaron, but if you look closely, it seems to be an enhanced version. First, the overall body is closer to the Western dragon. Then the sharp claws became twice larger, as did the black wings behind him. The most conspicuous. Nothing is better than the pair of winding dragon horns. There is no trace of human beings in the entire Shadow Men. Bai Yi feels very satisfied with this shadow extraction. The shadow subordinates who are thinking about human form basically have to have a name. Then Bai Yi just thought about it for about 2 seconds, and then blurted out 2 words. Half-dragon. Well, that's the name. It's simple and easy to understand. After confirming, Bai Yi decisively launched the investigation, and a bunch of data was displayed in front of him. Shadow's Men. Half-dragon. Level 39. HP, 21W1630, 21W1630. Comprehensive attack power, 4300++. Status, Special Amplification buff King's Domain. Skills, A+ level, Flying Dragon Transformation, S+ level, Dragon Flame, A++ level, Dragon Scale Armor, S level, Dragon Breath Recovery. 2S level skills, 2A level skills, and many other B and C level skills. It seems that he uses skill scrolls a lot, but his luck is worrying. Not every good skill can be awakened every time. Those like Bai Yi who hit the mark with one shot are definitely a minority among the minority. But, now that the shadow is extracted, the combat power will definitely become several times stronger. With the ability to risk one's life, the body with 100% combat instinct, and the character that is free from pain and fear, how can there be any reason to be weak? There is absolutely no doubt about the combat ability of Half-Dragon Aaron. Under the 3-party offensive of Shadow, Black Barden, and Shadow Giant, if it can survive for one night, it can show some of its strength. However, the most critical thing among them is Kenta Fujikawa's weird abilities. With that said, Bai Yi turned his eyes to Kenta Fujikawa. Suddenly, Kenta Fujikawa's breathing suddenly stopped, and he felt his butt tighten. Yes, Kenta Fujikawa is not dead at all. Or rather, he was resurrected early. I had to endure it all the way. As early as when his companion Long Aaron was killed together, Kenta Fujikawa resurrected himself not long after. Then, most of the entire team of shadows enter the Kingdom of Shadows and follow the shadows back and forth. But the Shadow Giant and Black Barden who smashed him to death were still there. Facing the 2 guys who smashed him to death, Kenta Fujikawa simply didn't dare to breathe. He was afraid that the other party would kill him again after finding out. To know, the wind-born beast ability of his professional skill, borrowing 100 ghosts, has expired, and it is impossible to use it again. In other words, if you die this time, you will die completely. Kenta Fujikawa, who was very stubborn even when he held the trump card of rebirth, how could he take risks when dealing with his last life? So, just like that, he was dragged along, without saying a word. I have to say that although I am not very strong, I still have a tough mouth. As he was being dragged along, he wondered in his mind that the endpoint might be the monster's lair, or it might be used to feed some being. But this situation now was something he had never thought of. He didn't expect this group of monsters actually obeyed orders. It's simply unimaginable. A slender eye is hidden in the hair on the back of Kenta Fujikawa's head. This is the Gucci girl among Hyaki's abilities. It only has the ability to provide perspective. That's it. Only Kenta Fujikawa can see this anomaly scene. The shadow beneath his dead companion Aaron actually became a monster on his own. Gudong. Kenta Fujikawa swallowed hard and felt his whole body tightening unconsciously. At this time, Bai Yi looked at Kenta Fujikawa who was pretending to be dead with a smile. After all, he was not a devil, so he took the initiative to remind Kenta Fujikawa that he had already discovered that the other party was not dead. That's right, Kenta Fujikawa thought he was faking it, but from the moment he died, Bai Yi didn't believe it at all. Therefore, he ordered the shadow to carry these 2 people together. Just to see when these 2 people can be resurrected. If it is resurrected halfway, it will definitely react, and the shadow giant and Black Bolton can directly kill it again. If you hadn't thought of the possibility that the other party would be resurrected. Bai Yi exchanged a shadow a long time ago and then extracted the shadow. But I didn't expect it. Half-Dragon Aaron really didn't react, and Fujikawa Kenta's mouth was really tough, and he didn't make any move until now. If it were anyone else, he might have thought he was completely cold. See here, Bai Yi couldn't help but have a smile on his lips, and said to the shadows with a malicious pretense. I asked you to bring someone here, why did you kill him directly? Listen to this. Kenta Fujikawa really believed it. You brought someone here without intending to kill yourself. Doesn't that mean that if you get up and communicate with the other party now, there is still a chance of surviving? Thinking of this, Kenta Fujikawa became nervous again. He did not dare to take action yet, and planned to continue to wait and see with his very stubborn character. Forget it, since he's dead, you can burn him. Bai Yi waved his hand calmly. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Kenta Fujikawa felt completely bad. He was instantly horrified and stood up violently. Spare your life. Spare your life. I am a good citizen. Kenta Fujikawa quickly fought for a chance to live for himself. Bai Yi turned his head and looked at Kenta Fujikawa, who stood up instantly. A moment. Natal Shadow is already close to Kenta Fujikawa and can suppress the opponent in an instant. Bai Yi nodded with satisfaction and continued to look at Kenta Fujikawa. Can you speak Longguo dialect? Bai Yi has long wanted to make fun of these weird Longguo dialects. Are these Neon Country graduates from Taijin Academy? Each one of them can speak Longguo dialect in a bottle that is less than half full. I can speak, I can speak. I have longed for the Dragon Kingdom since I was a child. Grown-ups, there is an old saying in the Dragon Kingdom, no fight, no love. Please spare my life. Kenta Fujikawa skillfully used the ancestral skill of the Neon Kingdom, Dageza, which means kneeling down and bowing to the ground. Looking at the extremely humble Kenta Fujikawa, Bai Yi's murderous intention has never wavered. This person gives Bai Yi the feeling. He is extremely humble on the surface, but he is also a master of insidious people behind his back. If he were left here, there might be another big problem. Although his shadows can suppress it instantly and it is not difficult to kill him again, it is still a bit troublesome. Seemingly seeing the murderous intent in Bai Yi's eyes, Kenta Fujikawa immediately pointed out what Bai Yi cared about most. Please hear me first, Kenta Fujikawa requested without raising his head. Bai Yi raised his eyebrows and didn't care. He waved his hand and all the surrounding shadows gathered around him. I saw that you can turn the shadow into a subordinate. If you kill me now, you will only get such a despicable and weak me. But if you give me a chance, you can get a shadow existence that surpasses Aaron. Fujikawa Kenta said in a strange accent, finished these words in one breath. Although Bai Yi was determined to take action, he still listened to his words. The natal shadow knife was placed on Kenta Fujikawa's neck, but Bai Yi waved his hand and paused for a moment. What do you mean? Bai Yi asked. I have the ability. As long as I eat humans with high qualifications, I can also gain stronger qualifications and strength. By then, you will definitely be able to get subordinates who are stronger than Aaron Shadow. Kenta Fujikawa saw the opportunity and spoke in one breath. Bai Yi listened. I couldn't help but feel a little interested, and my eyebrows were raised unconsciously. Kenta Fujikawa shouldn't dare to tell lies, but the other party seemed to realize that he was wrong. This shadow extraction can only be used on dead people. And this seems to be what Kenta Fujikawa thinks. All he needs is a shadow, maybe he can be spared. Determined to explain this somewhat funny misunderstanding, Bai Yi saw that the long-dead half-dragon Aaron actually moved. That's right, the half-dragon Aaron, whose shadow had been extracted, actually moved. It's getting more intense. Then, the half-dragon Aaron suddenly stood up from lying on his back and sat up slowly. The confused and empty eyes on his face really didn't look like a dead person. Bai Yi, Kenta Fujikawa. Kenta Fujikawa knows it. As expected, this one only needs a shadow. Won't kill him. If Bai Yi could hear his heartfelt voice, he would definitely be speechless. God only needs shadows. If he can extract shadows and activate them on living creatures, wouldn't he be invincible? But that's not the point. The point is, why is this half-dragon Aaron alive again? Is it the faceless sculptural cross? But looking at the half-dragon Aaron's lack of reaction for a long time, it seems alive, but not fully alive. The reason why I say this is because the current half-dragon Aaron doesn't look very smart. His eyes were blurry and he looked completely unable to concentrate. A shadow subordinate stood in front of him and waved his hand in front of him, but the half-dragon Aaron didn't react at all. I punched the current half-dragon Aaron, but he was as unresponsive as a wooden stake. Sir, I beg you, let me eat him. Fujikawa Kenta knelt down humbly, begging without raising his head. Bai Yi was silent for a while. I don't know why, but the current half-dragon Aaron is even worse than a dementia. It is unable to respond to the outside world, and apart from its current half-dragon form, it has no previous characteristics at all. I don't know if it's the effect of the faceless sculpture cross. Or maybe it was the result of the shadow being taken away. Or maybe both. In short, the current situation of the half-dragon Aaron is very embarrassing. Compared with the corpse, it only has the function of breathing and blinking. Whatever. Bai Yi waved his hand nonchalantly. He himself doesn't care about the life or death of half-dragon Aaron. Now that the shadows have been extracted, there is no use keeping half-dragon Aaron. Thank you, sir. Kenta Fujikawa slowly stood up and walked slowly to the demented half-dragon Aaron, his eyes full of longing. The devouring desire is so overwhelming. Professional skill, 100 ghost bite. Kenta Fujikawa thought silently in his heart. Immediately, one after another, phantoms of ghosts appeared, some shaped like wild beasts, some looked like evil ghosts, and some were directly like human heads. Each of these phantoms looks vicious, but they don't look like they are capable of attacking at all. But, after it came into contact with the body of the half-dragon Aaron, he actually started to eat the body of the half-dragon Aaron. Half-dragon Aaron didn't show any reaction when being chewed by these strange ghosts. But the speed of gnawing is simply worrying. The little fish that bites the skin of the feet in the pedicure shop come over faster than this. Bai Yi frowned slightly, seemingly dissatisfied with the speed and considering whether to kill Kenta Fujikawa on the spot. Sir, don't be anxious. I'll speed up now. Kenta Fujikawa bowed repeatedly to express his humility to Bai Yi. Kamian. Fujikawa Kenta made a hand seal, and a white smoke appeared around the half-dragon Aaron. The next second, half-dragon Aaron appeared, with some of his skin disappearing slightly. Shenyin, Shenyin, Shenyin. Fujikawa Kenta made his fingerprints again. After using his professional skills several times in a row, Kenta Fujikawa was a little exhausted, and he almost had the words, empty, written on his face. Bai Yi. All of a sudden, I can't tell whether Kenta Fujikawa is joking or serious. This guy has watched too many variety shows in his own country, right? This situation, Bai Yi is having a hard time getting out. Kenta Fujikawa said it right. If he succeeds in being promoted to a higher qualification, the shadow he produces will definitely be stronger. You don't have to worry about being beaten. Even the half-dragon Aaron of SSS level can be killed casually, and how can Kenta Fujikawa escape? No matter how you look at this matter, it is a sure profit. Only, as time flies by, the sky is getting closer to dusk. Up to now, Kenta Fujikawa has not finished devouring it. This way, Bai Yi must ensure that he can kill Kenta Fujikawa at any time. On the other side, the portal caves are also opening. Now, as if being invisibly held back by Kenta Fujikawa, time is slowly passing by. Bai Yi was a little dissatisfied and immediately sent 300 shadows to fade away and explore the portal cave respectively. Then, he took countless other shadows to form 3 small legions and went out. Although we are not 100% sure about conquering those portals, we still have a 98% chance of winning. Bai Yi has already thought about it. As long as Fujikawa Kenta completes the devouring evolution, he will kill him immediately and then extract the shadow. How can he have so much time to waste with this guy? This time, Bai Yi is determined to end the battle as soon as possible after Kenta Fujikawa's devouring process. But this situation cannot be changed however you want. Kenta Fujikawa still uses this divine hidden form from time to time to speed up the devouring process. Bai Yi was speechless and just looked at it. After a long time, just when Bai Yi felt helpless, Kenta Fujikawa's voice sounded from the side. Sir, I'm done. Bai Yi turned around and took a look. I saw that the body of half-dragon Aaron had disappeared, and the ghosts disappeared with it. I have finished devouring it. Can you please let me go after this? Fujikawa Kenta quickly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Bai Yi didn't answer, and the silent atmosphere made Fujikawa Kenta a little panicked. Even if he successfully swallowed half-dragon Aaron, he still had no confidence in himself. Kenta Fujikawa did feel right. Although during this period of time, Fujikawa Kenta has been devouring. But this process is very difficult. Even if Kenta Fujikawa is a highly qualified professional, it took a lot of effort to complete it. Now, although he devoured the body of half-dragon Aaron, however, the qualifications need to be improved piece by piece, and it all seems a bit anomaly. This body of his. Kenta Fujikawa couldn't help but look down and found that his body was completely different from before. Kenta Fujikawa's body, which was originally a half-dragon Aaron, felt very powerful. But my current body is even more amazing. The body, which is about 1.9 meters long, is full of muscles and is full of explosive power. Blood vessels as thick as an arm are spread all over the arm, like a blood vessel. But even though he was feeling the astonishing changes in his body, Kenta Fujikawa remained silent and asked humbly. Sir, my qualifications are still slowly improving. During this period, please forgive me for a little more time. Bai Yi's eyes were a little cold, and he spat out these two words coldly. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Kenta Fujikawa quickly kowtowed in thanks. Let them help you entertain yourself during this time. Bai Yi waved his hand, and the shadow men swarmed around him. Bai Yi can't see it anywhere. Although Kenta Fujikawa is still gradually getting stronger, the extent is limited. Wouldn't it be more time-saving to lower his blood volume at this time and wait until his qualifications are at their peak before killing him? Sir, don't make these jokes and get on with it. Kenta Fujikawa was a little anxious and immediately stood up to fight. Bai Yi put his hands behind his back, his eyes said everything. The shadow held the ancient king's short thorn and stabbed Kenta Fujikawa's heart. Black Baltan clapped two huge mutated palms. Shadow giants surrounded him, preventing him from thinking about escaping. But today's Kenta Fujikawa is no longer as fragile as before. If Kenta Fujikawa could withstand a complete wave of attacks before, then now, he can at least withstand 3 waves. There is an improvement, but not much. However, this is also due to the strong strength of the shadows. Let alone the current SS++ level Kenta Fujikawa, even if he reaches level 10 where he remains, he may not be able to escape. The main theme is a group fight, without any emphasis on martial ethics. You, don't be too aggressive, Baga. Kenta Fujikawa roared angrily, and his whole body burst out with momentum. A momentum spreads out. The phantoms of Hyaki surrounded him, but this time they did not lend their abilities to Kenta Fujikawa, but slowly integrate into it. All of a sudden, dark clouds gather in the sky. Even among the waves of dark clouds on the horizon, the faces of evil spirits seemed to appear faintly, and the wind seemed to carry the shrill screams of monsters and ghosts. Now, Kenta Fujikawa has been completely upgraded and has become an SSS level professional. This occupation is called 100 Ghosts Conquer the Yi. Ha ha ha, you from the Dragon Kingdom. Just see my ultimate form. I have been holding back for many years, and I have been waiting for today. I will release hundreds of ghosts to devour you bit by bit just like your predecessors. Become the step that helps me reach a higher rank 1. As if he had some resentment, Fujikawa Kenta laughed directly to the sky and yelled crazily to vent his anger. Bai Yi was a little impatient and rubbed his eyes. Are you looking down on me? I am now SSS level qualified, and my current occupation is 100 Ghosts Jungi. Fujikawa Kenta shouted excitedly. Bai Yi's eyelids were slightly closed and he looked a little sleepy. Kenta Fujikawa couldn't arouse any fighting spirit in him at all. Yeah, okay. Bai Yi clapped softly in an extremely teasing manner. Before Kenta Fujikawa was still promoting his career, Bai Yi took the lead and said, the SSS level profession is good, but have you heard of the SSS level hidden profession? Nani? Kenta Fujikawa's eyelids trembled. Although hidden professions do not mean that they are absolutely powerful, all hidden professions are definitely very strange, and they are definitely professions that no one has ever heard of. Quote. Sagaznai, no wonder you have such ability. But, you will definitely die here today and become my nourishment, Kenta Fujikawa said arrogantly, still confident. I don't know if it's because he has been suppressed for too long, or if it's just his nature. How dare you have endless ink with Bai just before night? I am invincible. Summon the evil-eyed demon sword. Shuden Doji, Tengu, Nekomata, Penghu, Kwangji Yu. Kenta Fujikawa first summoned a demon sword, and then called out the names of the 5 ghosts. Only, this time it seems that instead of borrowing Hyaki's ability, he directly integrates Hyaki into his body. All of a sudden, what appears on Kenta Fujikawa's body is no longer a shadow, but a real ghost organ. It has horns, 7 tails, wings, and is covered with white bone armor. Holding a demon sword with a purple eye on the handle, Kenta Fujikawa looked quite majestic. Bai curled his lips and waved casually. It seemed that Kenta Fujikawa's speech was very interesting, so he learned the lesson in a decent way. Summon half-dragon. Go and give him 2 slaps. Next moment, a figure suddenly jumped out from behind several shadows, with a strong gust of wind hanging from its wings behind it. Before Kenta Fujikawa could hear clearly what Bai said, you can clearly see 2 giant claws grabbing hard in front of you. Aha! Single quote. Aha! Single quote. Nearly 10 blood stains appeared on Kenta Fujikawa's face. The blood splashed out in the next second, and then flowed on Kenta Fujikawa's face again. Nani. Kenta Fujikawa held the demon sword in one hand and touched his face in disbelief with the other. He couldn't believe it. He didn't even realize what happened just now. I just heard Bai say, give him 2 slaps. Before he could react, the blood marks appeared on his face. Half of his face was soaked with blood. Kenta Fujikawa kept wiping the corners of his eyes before he could see clearly. But in front of him, he stood suddenly. Shadow half-dragon. It's the shadow of Aaron's dead man, the shadow. Kenta Fujikawa reacted, and an alarm bell sounded in his heart. The shadow of Aaron, under Bai's hands, turned out to be so unnatural. If Aaron himself had such strength, how could he possibly die? Broken. Kenta Fujikawa's eyes widened, and he realized belatedly that he seemed to be careless. I shouldn't have been so arrogant so early. If I had known earlier, I would have just endured it for a while. At this time, Kenta Fujikawa was still thinking about his previous mistakes, regretting why he had to yell a few words arrogantly. Wouldn't it be better to just kneel down and beg for mercy? But the matter has come to this, and there is no other choice. And Kenta Fujikawa can think so much and hasn't been attacked yet only because Bai just said, give him 2 slaps. If he had given the order to kill, Kenta Fujikawa might not be in this situation at this moment. Excuse me, sir. Kenta Fujikawa wanted to say more. Bai was the first to speak. Kill him directly. Boom. Kenta Fujikawa's mind was buzzing as if he had been hit with a mallet. No, there is still a chance. Kenta Fujikawa glanced quickly and quickly analyzed the enemies around him. Shadow, Black Barton, Shadow Giant, Half-Dragon. Looking at Bai, it seems that this person who obeys the orders of the shadows will not take action, which makes him more alive. Shadow, Black Barton, and Shadow Giant can't fly, so they have more vitality. He owns the crazy bone armor and the evil-eyed demonic sword, which are only stronger than before, and he has even more vitality. Nowadays, 1 versus 4, what will happen? After a period of calm analysis by Kenta Fujikawa, he came to the conclusion. If you fight hard, you will definitely die. Baga. Fujikawa Kenta cursed, then flapped his wings and flew up. This time, Kenta Fujikawa still chose to run away. The battle is all fake, no matter whether you win or lose, it's not worth it. Running is real, you can run without getting hurt, and even if you fail, there is no loss. This time Fujikawa Kenta learned to be smart. Take the initiative to meet the Shadow Giant's slap. Boom. Single quote. Directly relying on the white bone armor on his body, he pushed back for an instant, creating a vacuum period in the battle. HMPH, at most only Aaron can fly. There are 4 people on the ground, but they can't stop me. Advantage. At me. At this moment, Kenta Fujikawa forced himself to increase his momentum, otherwise he would be a little scared and lack confidence. After all, before this, everyone died at the hands of others. Although it has been strengthened this time, I still have some concerns, and I have not even paid attention to the many new abilities I have gained. Run away and do your work. Fujikawa Kenta's eyes widened. He held the evil-eyed demon sword with one hand and flapped his wings. Boom. Single quote. Relying on his hard crazy bone armor, Fujikawa Kenta faced the shadow giant directly before he could take the giant palm. The shadow giant's power had not reached its maximum, but Kenta Fujikawa pushed him back a few inches. Now, my aunt is old. Kenta Fujikawa shouted, jumped out from the palm of the shadow giant, flapped his wings and flew some distance away. Yoshi. It worked. Kenta Fujikawa had a smile on his face and relaxed a little. It is also this time. Kenta Fujikawa glanced at it and saw that the half-dragon on the ground had already disappeared. Not good. Fujikawa Kenta's eyes widened and his brows furrowed. He suddenly became extremely vigilant, as if everything around him was in danger. Two-mouth women. Kenta Fujikawa muttered something silently, and then a face grew from behind his head. Then there was a sudden discovery. Really, when Kenta Fujikawa avoided the attack of the shadow giant, the half-dragon had already circled behind and caught up. Its flying speed is terrifying. Baga. Fujikawa Kenta's mood was complicated. He saw the chasing half-dragon behind his head, and then he ran away at full speed with all his strength. HMPH. It's just a shadow of Eren, and it can't catch up with my ultimate form. Kenta Fujikawa is a little proud and complacent. After improving his qualifications, several ghost abilities were added to him, which increased his flying speed by more than a little bit. It is no exaggeration to say that even if the half-dragon chases with all his strength, he may not be able to catch up within an instant. It was also at this time. Kenta Fujikawa couldn't help but feel inexplicably horrified. Just see. On the ground, at the natal shadow, several more Taoist shadows slowly walked out. First comes the ninja, followed by several more shadow blue stones and purple stones. Finally, there is also the addition from the previous copy, title Calamity, Shadow Naga King. Nani. Kenta Fujikawa's eyes almost popped out of his head, and his emotions were overwhelming. Have all the other shadows agreed upon been dispatched? What if there are only 4 enemies on the ground? It's all just wishful thinking. Gudong. Kenta Fujikawa swallowed hard. Fortunately, at least there is no one who can fly. Kenta Fujikawa was thankful again. Kenta Fujikawa is like nothing else, but his mentality is quite good. Even in such a difficult situation, he can also find something to comfort his wounded heart. But unfortunately, he was soon disappointed. Just saw it. The shadow giant slowly picked up 2 shadows, holding a ninja in his left hand and a shadow blue stone in his right hand. What is he going to do? Fujikawa Kenta was flying into the distance while looking at the situation with the eyes behind his head. I saw the shadow giant making a standard posture like a baseball player, and then directly threw the 2 shadows in his hands. Boom. Single quote. Boom. Single quote. 2 air-piercing sounds exploded out. This speed, in an instant, is much faster than Kenta Fujikawa's flying speed. In just a few seconds, these thrown shadows caught up with Kenta Fujikawa. I hide. Fujikawa Kenta's eyes widened behind his head and he avoided reminding the younger ninja. Subsequently, when he was about to hide from the shadow blue stone, he was shocked by it. Just then, the flying shadow blue stone split into multiple new individuals in the air. Several shadow white stones. Nani. Fujikawa Kenta was not in a hurry to dodge and was directly hit by 2 shadow white stones. One was unstable and fell half a beat in the air. This. Kenta Fujikawa grinned and kept adjusting his body shape in midair, planning to continue flying. The half-dragon behind him was still some distance away. If he adjusted in time, he would not completely lose the chance to escape. As long as I can continue to fly, as long as I can continue to fly. Kenta Fujikawa still has luck. He constantly adjusted his body shape in midair and flapped his wings in the turbulent air. But somehow he was in that chaotic sight. Suddenly, with a startled glance, he suddenly saw a ferocious figure on the ground. It is so tall that it can hold several Fujikawa Kentas. The body is as strong as a transcendent-level muscular man with 4% body fat, and his monster-like features are clearly revealed, adding to the terrifying scene. At this time, it has a mouth full of blood, smiling at Kenta Fujikawa in midair. If not the Shadow Naga King, who else could it be? Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Fujikawa Kenta didn't even have time to make a sound, and his whole body was grabbed fiercely in his arms. Take a closer look. The Shadow Naga King had already jumped into the air, jumped directly from the ground, grabbed Kenta Fujikawa and pinned him in his arms. The huge chest muscles directly clamped Fujikawa Kenta's head tightly. Kenta Fujikawa's whole body was in bad condition. Even with the protection of the crazy bone armor, he felt like his whole body was being crushed to pieces. This feeling, it's like a thin man being pampered by a big gay guy from Transcendent level, not to mention how weird it is. Kenta Fujikawa could not make a sound and fell to the ground along with the Shadow Naga King. To know, the Naga King was originally a level 42 OSS level monster, but his shadow was extracted into the Shadow Naga Queen. Her combat power is so terrifying. Although it is a bit weak compared to the Shadow Water, but other than that, if it is said to be the leader and the first echelon of the Shadow Legion, I am afraid it is not surprising at all. I want to die. I don't want to die like this, Ga. Kenta Fujikawa kept waving the evil-eyed demon sword, making tiny scars one after another on the body of the Shadow Naga King. But the Shadow Naga King had no intention of letting go, and continued to exert force with a grin on his face. At the same time, the muscles of the Shadow Naga King's whole body were directly tense, and they continued to burst out with more and more powerful force. Naga King will become weaker without water. But not the Shadow Naga King. Every second, more terrifying force is applied and added. Bang bang, bang bang, boom, single quote. First there was the sound of bones breaking, followed by the sound of cracks in the crazy bone armor outside Kenta Fujikawa's body. PFF. Kenta Fujikawa spit out a mouthful of blood, and some unknown fragments got stuck in his throat, making his already unable to breathe smoothly even more serious. God, Shenyan. Fujikawa Kenta made a hand seal with one hand and used his professional skills. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.